Yo, what's up, Brandon? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay, bud? Can you hear me all right, bud? Okay, yeah. All right, thanks for being here, bud. Yeah, I'm doing this off of TikTok Studio, and he is not going to be joining us on TikTok. I'm actually going to be doing this live from Discord. So you guys will still be able to see our conversation. I will kind of just be displaying this through Discord, and you guys will be able to watch the stream that way. I'm really excited for it. This is Apex Crypto Consulting. This is somebody who I have been watching a very long time, probably since he started creating content. He says he spent over 9,000 hours researching XRP and QNT. And I think he is going to make you question everything that you know about XRP and QNT. We're going to get into some very deep research tonight. We're going to go a little bit into Ripple's involvement with the BIS, the International Monetary Fund, reserve asset. We're going to go into QNT. He honestly believes that QNT will be the most expensive token in history. Very excited to listen to why he believes what he believes. As well as somebody who has an infinite amount of research and knowledge in the back of his head. Somebody that I kind of look up to when it comes to research, and I do trust his research, and I absolutely am very excited for somebody to present new information about XRP and about QNT, and maybe in a way that I find myself struggling to articulate to you guys. But it's going to be pretty heavy technical research. It's going to not... It may be crypto friendly to beginners, but this is going to be something that I will probably be able to watch 2 to 3 times after I'm done recording this, and I could probably still learn something each and every time that I watch this. So I am very excited to get onto a call with him. I'm going to call him in about maybe 10 minutes or so. I jumped on a phone call with him before. I did this just to have a conversation with him and talk to him a little bit. And I'm really looking forward to this. His handle for you guys, if you guys are interested, it's Apex Crypto Consulting NFA. He is primarily on YouTube as well as X. I'm not so sure he has a TikTok, but regardless of the point, the research is there. And I've probably sent a couple of his videos into the Discord and in our research tab as well. So it's going to be cool. Beginners should be exposed to this side of crypto. Absolutely. And look, I know that this, on TikTok at least, or within the community that I engage in, most people kind of have a very negative perspective on XRP, and they don't necessarily think that you could see an expensive coin with it. Just listen to the way this guy speaks, the research that he presents. This is a guy who sits there and believes in a $10,000 XRP price. So I'm going to kind of really push some boundaries here and try to get out of him why he believes that that's possible. I know as creators we try not to push that price too high, because then people, if you are wrong, then you kind of tarnish your reputation. But then you also have people that, they're going to listen to you for financial advice no matter how many times you say no. But he is, this is not somebody who's like, in a basement talking about a $10,000 XRP price. This is somebody who can absolutely prove to you in terms of the demand, the supply, of why he believes in some of these prices. Very, very well educated. I'm honestly really excited to see why he believes what he believes. And I think that you guys honestly you're going to have something to learn, because I've been watching him and he's absolutely going to teach me something. I'm honestly very, very, very excited for this educational piece. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for being in here. This is gonna be episode 9 of the sit down. I know we went back to back last week, Brandon. I want to thank you so much for coming on. You and Sarah. We did episode 8 of the sit down, and I really kind of dug into what is a moderator's role, and what goes on behind the scenes. So I'm sure that there were people in there listening. It wasn't a crazy live, but I'm sure that there was people in there listening that are probably considering becoming moderators. And even if it's just changed one person's opinion or perspective on doing this job, then by all means, it was absolutely worth the time. And you guys did an absolute great job. I learned a lot from you guys as well. But yeah, tonight we're going to get back into crypto. And I think maybe Sunday we'll go back into the normal live chat. We'll go into the Q&As as well. But there's going to be some really sick clips out of this as well. Jane Polly, what's up, Jane? I'm really excited for you to listen in on tonight's sit down. I'm gonna go deep into XRP and QNT, as well as some of his personal beliefs. I think everyone's gonna be sitting there questioning what they really know about XRP and QNT. So it's gonna be very exciting to listen to. I hope that everybody is happy, is having a very happy Friday. Welcome to the weekend. You survived another week. We're pushing through. This is a pretty exciting week in terms of some of the news that started to come out with partnerships and maybe ETFs as well. Crypto regulation started to become another topic of discussion again in the United States government, as well as the SEC and CFTC coming together again to kind of explore how are they going to create laws and regulations for the crypto space. I mean, these projects are just growing week after week. It's so exciting to see. I know that Ondo just hit an all-time high in TVL, 250 million dollars, $1 billion or something. I'm not quite sure on the number, but 250 sounds about right. But yeah, this is going to be cool. This is so exciting. We really are on to the start of something very new, very exciting. This is gonna be a really cool one, and not for nothing. I really don't even care if there's 100 people in here or 5 people in here. I'm gonna be learning something. You know, I'm gonna have something to learn. I think this is gonna make for a historic YouTube video and just something that I could go back and learn from, and explore a little bit more into what he has to teach. So this is cool. If you guys do have any suggestions of people that you would like to have me try to bring on for an episode of the sit down, please throw it in the comments. I'm open to it. Schedule is starting to open up, so I'm looking for people to come on. And I don't know if I'm going to do one every week because it's a lot. You know, what could I possibly get? 50 people, and then what am I going to do for the 51st week? You know what I'm saying? It's like there's only so many people that are educating, willing to get behind the camera. So maybe I'll start to spread it out. I'm not so sure on that. I have a list, but getting them on is another thing. Absolutely. Yeah, reaching out to some of these people, it's very difficult. You know, I've had to develop relationships with some of these people months before, probably weeks, a few months before I even offered to have them on. So yeah, developing a personal relationship. I'm sure that they get messages every single day, people trying to get them to come on. But that, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's another thing. We got 2,000 likes. Thank you guys so much for tapping the screen and being here and being a part of it. Brandon, I hope you have another easy night, brother. We're doing this on studio, so I'm not expecting a big turnout tonight. Finley, thank you so much for the roses. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. I'm not expecting a big turnout. Studio doesn't seem to push out my content for some reason. I went back to going on the phone, and my TikTok agent kind of was just like, I guess just go back on the phone. So it is what it is, right? Regardless. It's absolutely gross to see the development that we've had, right? And a lot of things are playing out. ETFs are starting to come out. Regulations are starting to come out. We just got our interest rates cut. And we're at the top. We're pretty much at the top of a cycle. So is there going to be a pullback? I don't think so. Institutions are coming in. Of course, that mass institutional adoption is pending on the regulatory approval, but neither here nor there. All right. I'm going to jump over, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that don't look too bad for you guys. That kind of does look a little silly, to be honest, but fit this screen, I guess that's better. I don't know. All right, let's jump into this, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think where the market is heading next? I think we're jumping into a utility cycle, brother. I think mass institutional adoption is coming. And I think that when regulations come, 99% of this market is going to get absolutely wrecked. Utility assets are going to be the ones to stay. Hey.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Can you see me?
Not yet, but it's just, I think it's loading. We're not live yet, right?
We are. I do have you live.
Okay. Okay, all right.
I do have you live.
All right. I'll wait to go to the restroom then.
No, go ahead. By all means, go to the restroom.
Just 1 second, case. It's gonna be a long one if you've got time.
Yeah, please go ahead. Get comfortable. So the last thing I want is for someone not to be comfortable. You know what I mean? Failed to start. What is that about? What is going on with my camera? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Please stick with me on this.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're all good, Jesse. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to set up my camera view so that it looks correct.
There's an error. I'm gonna try. Okay, no, it's saying try again. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, my camera doesn't seem to be coming on. I don't know.
Had that issue the other day. Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You wanna shut it all off and start again?
Yeah, let me
call?
Yeah, let me give you another call, see if that works.
Okay.
This is crazy.
Same issue. I think looks Discord is not detecting any input from your mic. Let's fix that. Oh, now it's working. Wow, okay. I think sometimes when you have an error with your camera, you have to literally shut off everything and literally reboot your computer, but I don't know if that's going to mess up all your live stream and everything you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't even mind starting over. Let me see if I can unplug the camera, plug it back in. Maybe that'll work. I don't mind. I don't even mind, restarting everything if that's what we need to do here.
You might have to. Yesterday I spent like 5-6 hours, like the day before, dealing with my camera. It's unreal. I mean, the whole day. There's issues, and then connected the camera, then it messed up with my volume, my audio, and oh, there you go.
And here we are.
Nice.
And here we are.
That's good news.
Let me just fit out this screen properly so people can see both of us. And we'll see how this works.
Before I forget,
Yes.
I forgot to say that earlier. Say hi to your father for me, please, because you said your father watches me all the time,
He does.
and he's the one that convinced you to reach out to me. So
He actually said that you are his favorite researcher,
oh wow,
and I do believe his honesty about it.
nice. No, tell him I said hi. Tell him I said thank you. Thank
I
you
will.
very
He's
much.
not going to be with us tonight. He'll probably watch it on YouTube.
Okay.
But
Nice.
yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for episode 9 of the Sit Down. We have Apex Crypto Consulting joining us tonight, and I think tonight's going to be a very interesting one. Most people see XRP and QNT as just another altcoin, but Jesse has spent thousands of hours digging deeper, and what he's uncovered flips the normal crypto narrative on its head. Today we're going to question everything you thought you knew about XRP, QNT, and the future of finance. Jesse, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to get a little bit into your backstory and exactly who you are. So if we could start off by you telling us tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you get into crypto research?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I really, really appreciate the invite, man. Checked you out. It's like, okay, this guy knows his stuff. Plus, he's a Christian. You don't have to be a Christian to talk to me. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm like, that's awesome too. We're on the same page there. And so, yeah, I'm honored to be here, man. I really appreciate the invite. And I had moved. I typically don't say exactly where I am, but I had moved to a new city. And how I got into crypto, the guy sitting about 2 chairs from me, two tables from me at a coffee shop, just looked over at me and said, "Hey, have you heard of Bitcoin?" And just out of the blue, he had been smoking too. I think he was smoking. Like he was high. I'm not, honestly, he told me he was high, but anyways, and he just randomly, like across 2 tables, "Hey, have you heard of Bitcoin?" And we started talking, and I started looking into it, and then I stumbled onto XRP. And I had spent a lot of years researching the central banking system, mainstream media, how they operate, these very powerful 3-letter agencies, a bunch of stuff, especially the banking system, the drug industry, medical system. And when I realized that XRP was working with the central bankers, right away I was like, okay, there's something here, just because of the research I had done on the banking system, the central banking system, and they're 100 million times more powerful than most people think. So anyway, so that led me down the rabbit hole of XRP, and I spent years and years researching XRP. I kind of just went like dark mode, like it's the only thing I was kind of researching, but I was researching, utility regulations, all these stuff. Then I stumbled into QNT in 2020, started going down the rabbit hole. That one, I researched many other projects too, like other utility projects and XTC, like different things. But I also wanted to understand the regulations. Where is this coming from? The Nakamoto story. Is it really? Is it true? Or is it another agency that actually invented Bitcoin and they gave us the Nakamoto story so that we would embrace it? That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go to. And that's pretty simple to prove, that the Nakamoto story is incorrect. What we were told is not true. And so don't cut me off right away, guys. Don't leave the channel. Don't worry. I will prove what I'm saying. So yeah, just digging, and the more I dug, the more it was crazy. But I thought XRP was going to do something else way before, so I didn't miss the boat on other cryptocurrencies. Obviously, I think they've been suppressing the price, so when you're holding XRP mainly for years and it doesn't do nothing, so I missed the boat on other projects, of course, because it was laser focused, seeing the utility in XRP and seeing where it was going. but that's kind of my journey into crypto. And yeah, so that's how it started. Just got a bit obsessed with where this was going, and yeah.
I did too. I found myself consistently researching more and more as I got into it, and for some reason, it just clicked. It was this feeling that this was something I had to try my best to understand and really dive 2 feet in. So before we get into some particular assets, could you give us your futuristic take? What is your big thesis on where crypto is heading?
Excuse me, I'm gonna clear my throat sometimes. If you see me mute there, it's just not to cough in your ears. Um, well, we are technically, we're going to the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, and some people would say this is crypto. Some people call it the tokenization age, I think is the proper reference. Some people would say some people will say the fourth industrial revolution is AI and tokenization or blockchain. And some people might say like, okay, no, blockchain is the fourth industrial revolution and AI is the fifth or whatever. It depends. We'll see in 5-10 years how this all, levels out what people say. If was it the fourth and fifth combined into one or whatever. But we're going to the fourth industrial revolution. And what that means is that we had three great periods of time. We had the agricultural age. We had the manufacturing age, where it was all about manufacturing. That really changed how society did things. Like we were now able to mass produce things and so on. So it's that's one of the industrial revolutions, is the manufacturing age. Then the third industrial revolution, my understanding that we consider the third, is the information age, which everything was about the internet. It transformed society beyond comprehension. So that would be probably considered the third industrial revolution. And now we're going to the fourth industrial revolution. And most people don't realize that. And this is DLT. This is blockchain technology, DLT, combined with AI, like I said. That might be considered the fifth or whatever, but right now we're going to a new revolution, say the fourth industrial revolution, and many would say it's called the tokenization age, but it's blockchain, right? The same way everything moved to the internet, everything is now moving on blockchain. And I mean everything. Okay, this is not only about memes, and this is not only, like, every industry is literally going to move blockchain. And so when you start researching utility tokens like XDC, XRP, HBAR, when you start researching utility, meaning like cryptos that are going to be used in different industries, whether it's global trade or whether it's healthcare or whatever, you start realizing that all of the most powerful entities in the world have been working on this for 5-10 years, where they're literally, like, if you look in the UK, I think they're changing 5,000-year-old English law just to adopt tokenization on the XinFin XDC network. You start realizing that all the most powerful entities in the world, commercial banks, central banks, corporations, global regulators, government, are literally all in. They're all in, and they've known it. So while the mainstream media is saying, oh, Bitcoin, is it worth it? Is it going to go to zero? What's this blockchain? Or at first they were saying it's only for money laundering, blah, blah, blah. The same thing they did for the internet, right? Scare everybody out.
Right.
While they're doing that, talking like they're not sure, or, is it magic internet money? They're going to go to zero. While they're talking that way, the same people controlling mainstream media are literally all in. They're literally laying the foundation. They're lining up the brokerages. They're buying all the exchanges. They're setting up the regulations globally. So the G20, the central banks, they're all basically lining up everything so that this gets full adoption. That's what you realize once you start going to utility tokens, start researching. You realize that powers that be, they're all in because of the benefits of blockchain, right? It's like instant settlement, instant verification. I wish I had the list. I should have looked at a list. There's like 15 things that blockchain does. It's unbelievable. Like it makes everything so seamless, so instant, so I can't think of the words right now, but it brings so many advantages to businesses, and especially if you're like some of the biggest corporations in the world, including government. And so yeah, like blockchain. The question was, where's this going? Yeah, we're moving to the fourth industrial revolution. This is going to be the same way everything went on the internet. Everything's going to blockchain. So they're gonna tokenize everything.
It's so
And can I
interesting.
say, sorry, can I say what tokenization means?
Yes, please.
So most people don't understand. Tokenization means you're taking a certificate of ownership. Usually you would have a certificate that says, okay, you own a Google stock, or you own a Facebook stock, or you own some derivatives, or you own your car, or you own your house. It's a certificate of ownership, right? But you take that and you put that certificate of ownership on the blockchain, and it's represented as a token. So now you're holding a token that shows that you own this asset. So that's just what tokenization means. It's just you're holding a token that represents the ownership of an asset that can be real estate, stocks, bonds, arts, whatever, rather than holding a paper certificate or a commercial bank or somebody, a brokerage, holding a certificate for you. Right? That's what it means. And so once you start tokenizing all the assets, because it's now on a blockchain, you can do all sorts of stuff. You know, instant smart contracts, instant settlement, instant verification. You can process. Everything can be seamless now because it's all on a blockchain. It's instantly confirmation is instant. You don't have any middleman anymore. So it speeds up everything, like the whole thing. Like regardless of what industry it's applied to, once you get full adoption of it, it speeds up everything.
Yeah,
Healthcare, everything.
And there's so many benefits to tokenization, right? It's accessibility, global. All you really need is an internet connection. Fractional ownership is another one. Tapping into maybe liquid markets or liquid markets. There's speed, scalability. There's so many benefits of tokenization. My theory of where we're going and maybe where we're at right now, a lot of people throw out the term Web3, right? And in order to understand what Web3 is, you have to understand Web 1 and Web 2. So Web 1 was early days of the internet. It was a lot of fragmentation with that, and that was really just your read only. Web 2.0 came in, and that was introduce your read, and you're right, we were able to contribute to social media, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Google, Wikipedia, and now we're kind of shifting into Web 3, which they are classifying it as the own. So it's the read, write, and own aspect of the internet. And Web3 is a very broad term, right? It's that new, like you're saying, industrial revolution. It's the tokenization of real world assets. It's quantum computing. It's AI. It's blockchain. It's a vast things that do include where we are heading into. Now, in terms of the blockchain aspect of it, I currently believe where we are right now, I believe that we are in a speculative market. Bitcoin is holding 50-60% market cap dominance, and when you read Bitcoin's white paper, you read that it was created to be a peer-to-peer decentralized cash system. If you look at the uses of Bitcoin now, about 80% of the supply never moves. They're calling it now a store of value. And Bitcoin, in and of itself, is a speculative asset. Bitcoin's price is affected by elections, rumors of war, interest rates. All of these things do affect Bitcoin's price. And if Bitcoin pretty much dictates how the rest of the market moves. So I believe that we are currently in a speculative phase. I don't believe that we're going to stay in that for very much longer. I believe that regulations are going to be the catalyst that will introduce a utility phase. And I believe that the longevity of blockchain is going to be dominated by assets that solve a real world problem. And that could be anything from payments to tokenization to AI to oracles. There are many use cases as to what crypto will be used for. I believe that mass institutional adoption is waiting on the sidelines, and regulations is going to be that catalyst that'll eventually bring us out from a speculative market into a utility market.
Yeah, I agree. And we're still going to have different communities and DeFi, a bunch of different stuff, you know, like you're going to be able to tokenize your community, and there's going to be all sorts of that too, which we might not, but it's a form of utility, I guess. The stuff that's going to come out of this is complete insanity. Can you hear me properly right now?
Yes.
The volume is good? Okay, good. Yeah, it's complete insanity because when the internet started, they didn't even think that we're going to be able to do 1% of what we're doing with the internet now. Right? And it's moving twice as fast as the internet was. The adoption of crypto and blockchain is moving twice as fast. And so combine that with AI, I mean, like, where are we going to be in 15, 20 years? You know, if the world's still here, like, it's unreal. Like, we're moving fast, and can't imagine, like, so many things are going to come out that we couldn't even imagine, because this, like, again, like, when the internet started, you're sharing pictures and emails. Did you really think that you're going to be able to order an Uber on your phone and have the car come like two minutes later pick you up? Like, or have a Google map that drives you around and you have a lady talking to you, hey, turn right, turn left, hey, turn right, turn left. Like nobody taught that. Like, you taught you're sending a picture, then and who taught that everybody would have iPhones, and then because at first when they started changing, like sending a video, you started sending pictures, then you sent a video. But who ever taught that 10 years later an iPhone would be invented and everybody would literally be recording 10 videos per day and sending that to each other? And like we're producing more data right now in 2 seconds than we did 10 years ago in a whole year. And so like you don't know where this can go. Like I don't think anybody can really imagine. I just know it's going to be crazy.
Absolutely not. And it really is hard to predict what the next 5, let alone 15 years is. But let me ask you, is there maybe an angle that most people are missing when it comes to Web3 or even blockchain? I kind of believe that most people are distracted and focused on hype projects, speculation projects. But is there another angle that most people are missing when it comes to where we are heading in here?
In a year?
In here, in this industry.
Oh, in here. Yeah, I think like there's so much to learn, right? Like I've spent probably over 9,000 hours researching XRP, maybe over 4,000 researching quant, if not more, then other utility tokens and regulations and where this is going, and what does it mean to be the internet of value, and what does it mean to be the internet of trust, quant, like what does this mean? So I research so much, and there's still so much to learn. Like so, not everybody has that kind of time. So like most people don't realize, first of all, that almost every commercial bank and central bank, and like I said, all the major industries in the world, the biggest corporations in the world, are literally all working on blockchain adoption to put this within their industries. And I'm talking like, you look at the Hyperledger Foundation, for example. I think it was started like 7-8 years ago, maybe even before. They're a part of the Linux Foundation. 99.9% of people in crypto don't know what the Hyperledger Foundation is. Excuse me. So if you look at the Hyperledger Foundation, the document came from the Hyperledger Foundation about 7 years ago. It leaked, saying how they were going to lay out the Internet of Value, and it was the Interledger Protocol, XRP, and Corda had a big say in that, and it showed XRP was the central banks for all central banks. It was the global RTGS. But the Hyperledger Foundation, for example, is the biggest consortium in the world of all the top universities, all the like commercial banks, central banks, the biggest fintech, the biggest corporations. There's like 1,000 of them, all of the who's who. You're talking thousands, okay, and all working on blockchain adoption. And this started like 10 years ago. So everybody that has a say in where this world, like that's where the money is, right? That's where the adoption of money is. They've been working on this for 10 years. It's a Hyperledger Foundation, now called the Decentralized Trust. It exists to create open source blockchain use cases. I mean, it's to have that global adoption. And 99% of people in the industry don't even have a clue that exists. And that's just one example. And if you go on the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank for the central bankers, you'll see that 99% of central banks right now are working on central bank digital currencies.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's what's happening. Like, there's a lack of knowledge and where this is going and how this is being adopted by the most powerful elites and industries and corporations and everything. They're all in, right? So this is going mainstream. This is like, that's one thing that I think 90% of the communities don't realize is happening. It's like I said, it's the fourth industrial revolution, and then you plug that with DeFi and then tokenizing communities and meme coins and meme communities. Like there's going to be other things too, but the utility that's going to come from these projects that are capturing like real world use cases, like where it's going to be responsible for a lot of things in healthcare or global transfers and everything. Yeah, it's crazy. It's way bigger, and that's so sorry. It's probably 50x bigger than what most people in crypto realize.
Yeah.
And then it's probably 8 million times bigger than what most people that are not in crypto realize. They've only heard of Bitcoin.
And it really does perfectly explain that own aspect of Web3. This is systemic infrastructure that we're witnessing roll out. It's not just a coin or like a community. This is infrastructure that we actually have the ability to have and own into it. I'd like to go a little bit into Ripple and XRP. You say Ripple is developing and creating the Internet of Value. Please explain anything you would like to talk about Ripple or the Internet of Value, anything.
Do we have 10,000 hours or 100,000 hours?
Bro, I could do 9,000 hours of research with you.
Well, it's just like I could rant about Ripple for so long. Oh yeah, so Ripple has been, screaming on the hilltops for a long time now. We are building the Internet of Value. And like that's all documented. They are building the Internet of Value. And what that means is the Internet of Information we have today is an internet protocol, TCP, and a bunch of different protocols that allows us to move information instantly peer-to-peer. Okay, and from the internet protocol, all of these different things came up. There's different layers that were put on top of that. So SMTP protocol, which is for email, and HTTPS for the website. And so many things were built on top of the internet that gave us the internet we have today. So that's the Internet of Information. It's a protocol that allows us to share information between people, and that can be email, documents, or the information can be in the form of a video, which is a lot of data, and that's the Internet of Information. But now Ripple is building the Internet of Value in the sense that it's the Interledger protocol being the main protocol, and XRP Ledger being built on top of it. And instead of exchanging information from one person to another, like the Internet of Information, the World Wide Web, now with the Interledger protocol and XRP, you're exchanging value. Okay, so now we're going to move value seamlessly, and that's what they mean by the Internet of Value. So whatever is tokenized, so let's say, let's not talk tokenization first, let's go back a bit. So just a very basic, so the US, somebody in the US or a company in the US wants to send a payment to somebody in Europe. They don't want US dollar, they want euros. Great. They send a US dollar, it converts into XRP and converts into euro in a few seconds. Okay, so that's an example, but then that can be done once it starts maturing, which we're technically almost already there. Anything that's paired with XRP automatically becomes liquid. Anything else that's paired with XRP. So if I have a Google stock and I want to sell it, and I say, hey, I want yen. I want yen. That's what I want. That's the dollar that I want, the currency I want. I want yen. I sell my Google stock, automatically it converts into XRP and converts into yen. Say, hey, you know what? I thought I wanted yen, but I think I want to buy some tokenized gold. So I sell that, immediately goes from yen, the currency, the yen, automatically to XRP and automatically to tokenized gold. So we're going from any type of asset to any type of asset. And the more you tokenize things, the more you need a bridge asset. Because everything becomes even more siloed. So XRP is the Internet of Value in a sense that it's a token that allows any type of value, any type of asset to be converted to any type of asset that's tokenized or on the blockchain or even not instantly. Okay, so it's that liquid there. So that's why they call it the Internet of Value instead of the Internet of Information. It allows you to move value. So it's the same as the internet. It's packets of information, just like the internet we have today. It's packets, but instead of being packets of information, it's packets of value. Okay, and like I said, that can be tokenized stock, bond, derivatives. Derivatives alone is 4,000 trillion. Let's be honest here, okay? And real estate alone, I think, is like 500 trillion, maybe 300-400
Yeah, I've
trillion,
seen 300 trillion, but it absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, 300 probably. I think government debt is like 150 trillion, or maybe way more. I think corporate debt is 300 trillion. Like I said, derivatives alone, I think it's over 3,500 trillion now. That's 3.5 quadrillion.
Yep.
Okay, and so this is the Internet of Value. XRP is that bridge asset that allows anything to. So it's when we come up with these outrageous numbers, it sounds outrageous to most people. So how the heck could XRP hit 1,000 or 5,000? Okay, I think I'm gonna put out an argument on that most people like. I think most people just look at it and say, look at the value that's going to be moving through this protocol. But there's another argument that can be done is that, for an insane value is that, and again, sorry, I should have added, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only, right? Have to give that disclaimer every time. So the other argument is like that very few people argue that I keep pounding on my channel is this token is capturing the value of an internet protocol. This is not a regular company. Okay, so the potential why I think the potential is insane is because let's say the internet years ago when they created the internet, let's say we had blockchain and they would have hard coded a rule that would said, okay, we're going to create what's called the internet token. There's going to be 100 billion token. And anytime anybody wants to use the internet, anything they do on the internet, whether you're ordering an Uber, you're sending a video to somebody, you're adding somebody as a friend on Discord or Facebook, and anytime you do anything on the internet, it needs to go through the internet token. When the data is moving over this protocol, TCP, it has to use the token. What do you think the value of that token would be? Even if there was 100 billion like XRP.
It has to keep up with the demand.
The demand's insane. We're moving more, like I said, we're moving more data because we started with emails. Then we used PDFs. And then we went to pictures, which is more data than an email. A picture is more data than an email. Then we went to videos. So a video is a lot more data than a picture. And then we started mass producing videos, like TikTok and YouTube and like you name it. We're producing so much videos in a day, it's insane. And all that data needs to flow through the internet protocol. We're all sharing that on the internet. If you had a token was built in the internet, excuse me, and there's a limited supply, and the protocol was forced to use the token every time we're doing something on the internet, I think the token would be worth a fortune. That token would definitely be worth 10,000 in my opinion. Or 20,000. So that's why I see an insane amount of potential with XRPs because it's capturing the value of an internet. And that's why like you can't look at this like a market, like a regular company. Because you look at just 5 companies on the internet, there are 5 companies combined, 5 of the biggest, their market cap might be 10 trillion and that's just 5 companies.
Yeah, 5 products or 5 industries,
like
specific
Tesla,
industries.
Google, yeah. Like you look at Tesla and Google, Facebook, take 5 major like big companies and it might be 8, 10 trillion, but that's just 4 companies on the internet.
Right.
What if you wanted to say, okay, what's the market cap of the internet? I know it's not an exact example, but it's just to give an idea. Like this is a token positioned to capture the value of the next internet.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Capture the utility.
even
Everything needs to go through it.
and that's what we talk about, like a total addressable market. It's hypothetically the potential that of demand that can actually be brought into this ecosystem. You got FX markets, $3 quadrillion, remittances, 800 billion. You got ODL or freeing up the Nostra Vostros, 150 trillion. You got e-commerce, 6 trillion. There's multiple industries, multiple enterprises, multiple banks, multiple central banks. You're talking about this is truly the internet of value, all converging into one particular rail.
Yeah, and we have documents showing. So what people need to understand is every central bank, 98% of central banks, they have, or 95%, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but most of them have what are called real-time gross settlement systems. These are called RTGS system. This is the settlement system for that nation. So if you look at the US, the Federal Reserve has a real-time gross settlement system, and all the banks are connected to the commercial banks, and the regional banks and credit unions are connected to the central bank via the RTGS. It's the real-time gross settlement. It's the settlement system for the nation. So every central bank in the world, almost every central bank in the world has those. There's 170 to 180 central banks. But we have documents coming from the Hyperledger Foundation showing how the XRP Ledger was the global RTGS. And you saw all the central banks connecting. And you showed how the central banks had all their RTGS. But the XRP Ledger was called the global RTGS. Why? Because it was the RTGS for all the central banks. Okay, and then it said the XRP Ledger, Interledger Protocol, and the XRP Ledger is the new global RTGS and the global liquidity marketplace. Specifically, so that's what when they say on-demand liquidity, Ripple's main product is called on-demand liquidity. People have to realize that the central bankers have been trying to fix this liquidity crisis for over 20, 30 years. And all of a sudden, Ripple pops up. Oh, isn't that interesting?
Is this
Ripple
where
is solving...
Jesse? Is this where the discussion of the International Monetary Fund trying to create the SBRs in 1968, but they struggled with liquidity in multiple use cases?
Yeah, my understanding. I did a video on that. Every time I talk about that, or when I did the video, it made me really nervous because I think I cracked the code on Ripple. I cracked the code. I really did. Oh man, I'm always nervous talking about this.
I know. You never know. You never know what could happen, right?
Let me see how I can explain that. So in 1960, this goes way back to Bretton Woods Agreement in 1945, really. After World War II, they want to see, okay, how do we set up this new financial system? The U.S. had won; it was the most powerful economy, so on and so forth. There was two options. We either go with the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency, and we back it by gold, or we go with the Bancor. The IMF was created the same year, the same day, I think, that Bretton Woods Agreement was actually created. The IMF was created in the World Bank, I do, same day or same year. And the other proposal was the Bancor, which the IMF would have controlled. It was a neutral bridge currency. It would have been a neutral currency because it's not tied to any government or nation. That was the Bancor. They choose to go with the US dollar, and the US dollars, the US said, we're going to back it. We'll be the global reserve currency, but we agree to every dollar we issue, we're going to back it by gold. And there was an economist at the time that said, that's going to work for now maybe, but in the future, that's not going to work because you're going to have to run deficits in order to supply the world with US dollars. And his last name was Triffins. So that's what's called the Triffins dilemma. So now we go in 1968. I'm not sure if they're seeing kind of the effects of the Triffins dilemma a bit. I'm not sure, but the IMF, International Monetary Fund, creates the special drawing rights. They only distribute it to banks. They don't distribute it to corporations and fintechs and the average person or nothing. They just distribute it to the banks. And it never, my understanding, based on my research, it never got that. And the reason for the SDR was to help with global trade, help with the FX, and help with liquidity.
Sounds very similar to something we might be looking into.
Yeah. So it doesn't get that global adoption. And also, it seems that countries don't really want to borrow from the IMF because of concerns on what they're going to have to do, what they're going to have to sign over in order to get those loans, something like that. But in general, it doesn't get the adoption, okay? And I think the main reason, well, my research, and I asked the AI, tell me why it failed, because I thought that's the reason it failed, and the AI told me exactly what I thought. It said it was not successful because it did not gain liquidity use cases and so on, because they only gave it to certain banks. Now, I don't know if it was all the central bank, commercial banks, or who they gave it to, but they only gave it to a limited amount of banks, I think. It was only for the banks. But my understanding is if you don't have the corporations and the fintech companies that come in to help you to build use cases, like in order for a token to be liquid, have that liquidity and all those use cases that make it liquid and readily available, because liquidity means it's easily accessible to anybody at any time, right? I think that's the proper definition somewhat of liquidity, but it never gained that liquidity because it never got the use cases. So anyways, it failed. That's 1968. 1988, all your viewers are getting some good information. I'm going to share some stuff I don't even think I even shared on my channel.
You're cooking.
I did once, but so in 1988, there's The Economist magazine comes out with the Rising Phoenix. Okay, you see this get ready for a new global reserve currency, new world currency. And you see this rising phoenix rising from the ashes, and you see the fiat currencies, the dollars and everything, fiat currencies burning. That's and that's the Rising Phoenix article in 1988. Okay, and a lot of people talk about the magazine, but they never talk about the actual article. Like, what did the article in the magazine say? And so what it said is that they had new technologies. This is 1988, guys. They were saying that there's new technologies on the horizon that would allow them to create a new world reserve currency, and it would be used for global trade, liquidity, and it would help with FX. And it argued that the best institution to manage this currency, oh, and by the way, this currency, it said like in 30 years from 1988. So by 2018, this is when this new global reserve currency would come in the forefront. And the article argued that the IMF, when you read between the lines, you ask the AI, tell me what the article said. It argued that the IMF would be the best institution to manage this currency because of their experience with the SDR, the special drawing rights, which failed. So I don't know why they say they had the experience, but because it failed. But anyways, so here we have, they're saying that they have the technology, and they describe what it's going to do to help the FX, like I said, global trade, and help with liquidity, and it would be created within 30 years. By 2018, that's when this new global reserve currency would come on the horizon, right, and come to be. And the IMF would be the best to manage this new global reserve currency because of its experience as with the SDR, special drawing rights, as a lender of last resort, and because it's a neutral currency and the IMF is not tied to, so that fixes the Triffin's dilemma, okay? Because there's other problems with having a global reserve currency that's tied to a sovereign government, tied to a sovereign currency. So for example, if we say, okay, the US dollar is a global reserve currency, everybody has to hold US dollar to do their trade. This causes many problems internationally because when the US tries to do monetary policy for their country, it can negatively impact 80% of the other countries. Because if you're holding, let's say you're in the Philippines, you're Philippine corporation or government, and you're holding US denominated debt, right? Because you have to do your global trade with US dollars, so you're holding US debt, you're borrowing and lending, doing all sorts of stuff, but let's say you're holding US debt. Because you have to hold it, or you're holding US debt, let's say. And a lot of people holding US debt because that's what you do your trade with, so sometimes, whatever. The US dollar, the US government does monetary policy that strengthens their dollar. Now you're screwed, for my language, because now if the US dollar gets stronger against your currency, you can never pay that debt again. So the thing is like when every country is forced to hold certain currency, like in this case the US dollar because that was a global reserve currency, it's impossible to have what's called a level playing field.
Yep.
And all the governments have been talking about a level playing field. We need a level playing field. That level playing field is we have a new neutral bridge currency that nobody controls. It's completely decentralized. And everybody can do their own monetary policy. It doesn't affect any other country. They do what they want. And when they need to settle transactions, they just settle through XRP. So they can hold XRP or they can just settle through XRP. But everybody gets to do whatever they want. So no country is forced to hold a currency, a reserve currency that's tied to another country. They can just do whatever they want. They hold whatever they want. And that way, if that country does crazy, ridiculous monetary policy, they start printing money like crazy or they increase interest rates like crazy, it doesn't affect all the other countries because they're not forced to hold that dollar. You know what I mean?
Yep, I'm following you. So
it's one of the problems, aside from the Triffin's dilemma. This is what they want to fix.
So let's get down to the meat. Can XRP actually serve within the role of a reserve asset, and what do you think the probability would be of that?
Yeah, so when I say global reserve currency or new world reserve currency, I'm not saying it replaces the US dollar
Right.
or any of the other currencies.
Complements it, maybe.
Right? Yeah, you're still gonna have the yuan, the peso, the US dollar, euro. They're still gonna exist, but you're not gonna be forced to hold one of those to do your global trade. You're just gonna be able to hold whatever assets you want and settle into whatever you want, because now we have a level playing field. We have a neutral bridge currency that everybody can just bridge through and get whatever currencies they want when they do their global trade or whatever they want. Right? They want to borrow, lend. Do global trade, they do whatever they want. And like I said, we've got this new neutral bridge currency now. We're not forced to hold. So it's not replacing the US dollar in the sense that the US dollar is going to vanish and the euro is going to vanish. I want to make that clear because a lot of people think that when you say XRP is a new world reserve currency, it's heading that way that, all the other currencies are going to vanish, right? No, that's not what we're saying when we say XRP is going to be new world reserve currency. And kind of forgot your question here. Sorry. Can you say that again?
Yeah. The probability and how likely could XRP be used for the role of the reserve asset?
Yeah. So I think you're still going to have some dominant currencies,
Right.
U.S. and maybe others, but as that main liquidity layer, that main new you would call it new global reserve currency technically. I've recently did videos showing they call it a new global stablecoin.
Yep.
IOSDO. I don't know if you saw that. They're
Yep.
talking about a new global stablecoin that would be backed by numerous assets that global financial institutions would hold all around the world. And collectively, all these assets would be called the reserve fund. And all these assets that the major global financial institutions are holding, including debt instruments and very liquid assets, they would all of them combined, which is called the reserve fund, would be equal to the value of this new global stablecoin. And this global stablecoin would be used as a medium of exchange. Okay, it would have a global footprint, and it would be issued by a private company. Isn't that interesting?
Yep. And a lot of people, they just all hear is that word stablecoin, and they think it's going to be USDC or anything. But the global stablecoin is a completely different meaning. And even the World Bank had referenced Stellar and Ripple as a global stablecoin, and everyone said, "Well, that's impossible because it's a volatile asset." Walk me through this.
Yeah. So I think what they mean by global, like stable. So first of all, those documents, they hinted. They said in order for it to, and this is coming from the IOSCO. I just want to make this clear for people. Okay, this is coming from the International Organizations for Securities, the same organization that's tied to the SEC.
Yeah.
Right.
But
This is
globally.
an international. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Interesting. I have this saying now. I always say, "Isn't that interesting?" And then people are calling me out on that. Maximus is calling me out. Shout out to Maximus Crypto. I love that guy.
Yes.
Anyways, he always called me out. He's like, "Isn't that interesting?" Laughing at my thing. So the IOC, yeah, the document was coming from the IOSCO, and they were. It specifically said that in order for it to qualify as a global stablecoin, it had to have a global footprint, and it had to be used as a medium of exchange. Isn't that interesting, right? And then later on, they start talking about stablecoin arrangements. But instead of saying global stablecoin, in the document, they just talk about a stablecoin arrangement. But if you read between the line and you remember what the definition they gave you, you know that when they're talking about a stablecoin arrangement, they're talking about this new global stablecoin. That would be cross-border. It would be a medium of exchange. It would
Private
have a global
company.
footprint, issued by a private company, all these things, right? And I just want to, while we're at it, I just want to add something before I forget here. Miguel Viaz, that was at Ripple, he came from CME Group, was at Ripple. He was interviewed by Thinking Crypto, I think. Shout out to Thinking Crypto as well. I like to give shout outs.
Yes, please.
He was interviewed by. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why he's not with Ripple. Total speculation. Okay, this is not factual, but he was being interviewed by him, and he asked him, Miguel Viaz, he was like a very hot, prominent position at Ripple at the time, and he asked him, he says, "What are you guys thinking of doing with the escrow, 50 billion escrow?" And he said, like we don't know. I don't think we'll ever sell it all. Maybe, we could be like a lender of last resort, but that would kind of be weird for a private company. So maybe some things would have to change, or maybe we pass off the escrow to somebody else and they could be like a lender of last resort. The only lender of last resort on planet Earth is the IMF.
Mm-hmm.
I just want your viewers to just remember that. Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
And then 6 months later, or a year later, I'm not sure how long, maybe 2 years later, or maybe it's 6 months later, I'm not sure, he's no longer with Ripple.
It's amazing.
I'm not saying it's because of his comment. That's not what I'm saying.
Right, but the
I
breadcrumbs
don't
are
think he
there.
was supposed to. I don't think he was supposed to say that though, because a private company cannot become a lender of last resort. I mean,
Right.
come on. You can't be saying. And just for your viewers, you have to understand, a lender of last resort is somebody that bails countries. Bail out countries. When a country is going bankrupt, you're bailing out the country. You're the one lending to that country. Like, come on, a private company cannot be a lender of last resort. Like, yeah. Oh my goodness, biting my tongue.
It's following the breadcrumbs, and ultimately you get below the table and you're wondering what exactly is sitting on the table. Now, I've heard what you said is that sometimes these global institutions or what have you, they're a little deceptive in the terms of wording.
Yeah.
And I know you've spoken on the unified ledger concept. Talk to me a little bit about that and what the BIS likes to call it, and walk me through the unified ledger.
Yeah, you're really asking the good questions. I told you this conversation is going to be long. No, I think so I just research XRP like a madman for numerous years every day. And I started my channel about 5 months ago because I was very big on QNT and XRP and utility tokens, all that stuff. But I was realizing the QNT community was still convinced that the Finternet and the unified ledger was QNT. And I was some of these Telegram groups, if I tried to explain to them, one of the guys that managed a group would he was a bit special, let's just say, and he would like salt you from head to toe and just ban you from the group if you disagreed with him. So I got, at one point I'm like, okay, I got to start making YouTube videos here. I got to start explaining what I see here. So anyways, I think it was the first one. I was clearly the first person to show that the regulated liability network, the regulated settlement network, the regulated internet of value, which is what was originally called, but they changed the name real quick because they can't say the internet value. Everybody knows that's Ripple. The unified ledger and the shared ledger concept is technically all the XRP ledger and the Finternet. But they say Finternet, financial internet, instead of saying internet of value. They call it the Finternet, right? So I did a video on that, and Brad Kimes, shout out to Brad Kimes, Digital Perspectives, he picked up on it, and he did he was surprised that somebody was showing the proof that this was all the same thing. And if you give me 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I can explain it to you how I can prove it's all the same thing.
Please.
So Gilbert Verdian said, and this is a CEO of Quant, which is literally chosen, the Quant is like probably nothing bigger than Quant. So it's literally Microsoft Windows for this fourth industrial revolution. And they were chosen by the BIS to be the interoperability solution. And like, we're not going to have the full blockchain adoption, the proper blockchain adoption without Quant, and we can go into that later if we if we have enough time. But he said, when he was talking about the regulated liability network, he said, we also partnered with R3, who's bringing in the shared ledger where all of the tokenized assets will reside. Now, I know he's not really, I know to me when he says that, he's obviously talking about the internet of value because there's plenty of blockchain doing tokenization. So I think when he's saying all assets will reside on the shared ledger, he's meaning all the value is going to be transacted through the shared ledger. And I think XLM2 obviously does cross-border and similar as well. But anyways, he said, we partnered with R3, who's bringing in the shared ledger. And R3 was given 5 billion XRPs years ago to bring utility to the XRP ledger. There was a lawsuit settled. They still have 1 billion. And in order to get those 1 billion XRP, 99% of people don't understand that what they brought to the table was mainly the Corda settler. So R3 Corda is a massive, massive network. It's insane. 95% of the banks in the world are connected to Corda. But they created what's called the Corda settler. And the Corda settler exclusively uses XRP for settlement. And I know some people are going to say, oh, but Solana teamed up with R3 Corda. Solana is not being used for liquidity and cross-border and instant settlement. That's not Solana's strength. You have to be purpose-built as a bridge currency in order to do what Ripple does. And Solana's not that. And XDC is not that as well. XDC is a bit different. And you can watch one of my videos. I can't, take 2 hours to explain that. But Gilbert Verdian said, we partnered with R3, who's bringing in the shared ledger, where all tokenized assets will reside. And he said, we provide the programmability, interoperability, and custom APIs for the project, the regulated liability network. And R3 is bringing in the shared ledger. Now, Tony McLaughlin of Citibank, that's always sitting on stage with Gilbert Verdian at these very, very, very high-rank meetings and organization stuff in London and so on, he said in episode 1, Citibank episode 1, it was about 8 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, he said the regulated liability network, he says, if you think of a shared ledger, if you take all the banks in the world and they all have databases and you merge them onto a shared ledger, that is essentially what the regulated liability network is. So we've got Gilbert Verdian saying the regulated liability network partnered with R3 for the shared ledger. All tokenized assets will reside there. And then Tony McLaughlin, which is the head of technology for Citibank, admits that the shared ledger and the regulated liability network are the same thing. Okay, so then there's another document coming from Citibank, and it says that, no, it's coming from Deutsche Bank, and it admits that the first time the regulated liability network concept ever came out, they called it the regulated internet of value. But they changed the name. The first time it was ever mentioned in a Citibank document, they called it the regulated internet of value in 2021, but they changed the name. They started calling it the regulated liability network. And in the US, they call it the regulated settlement network.
Yep.
Now, there's another document that came out that says that the BIS, when they talk about the regulated liability network, they call it the unified ledger. Okay? So now we have confirmation, shared ledger, regulated liability network, regulated settlement network, regulated internet of value, which is Ripple, and the unified ledger is all the same thing. Okay? Good so far?
Yep.
All right. I know you watch my videos, you already know this, but so then you can watch a video of the head of technology for the BIS, that's the central banks for all of the central banks, saying that if we have a unified ledger, that would replace SWIFT. He talks about the problem with correspondent banking and how the unified ledger could replace correspondent banking, which is exactly what Ripple does. And, the unified ledger could replace SWIFT and the problem with correspondent bankings. Because he says, right now, he says you have to go through the messaging and the payment is done separately. This is what he explains. He says the messaging and the payment is done separately because the payment has to go through different corresponding banking.
Right.
Different banks, and this causes problems and blah, blah, blah. But if we have a unified ledger, we can seamlessly do these transactions. And technically, he says you've all heard of SWIFT, but he describes like how the unified ledger will replace SWIFT. And who has been saying for 7 years now, we are going to replace SWIFT? It's Ripple, right? Me and you both can pull up 100 different videos of Brad Garlinghouse or David Schwartz or people at Ripple say, we're replacing SWIFT. Everybody knows that Ripple is replacing SWIFT. So, and then there's another document that says that the unified ledger has the potential to become a global RTGS.
So it could be both. It could be both.
They say it has, they say that's the wording. They say it has potential because that's how they always talk in their documentation, so we can't figure out. They always say like, oh, it's potential, it's a concept, maybe it could work out. That's how they talk, but they say it could become a global RTGS. So the unified ledger and the global RTGS are the same thing. It's just the way they're wording it sometimes. It has the potential, they say it has potential, but no. Unified ledger is the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger is the new global RTGS. And the reason I say that is because remember how I told you earlier that the Hyperledger Foundation leaked a document called the Internet of Value, how they were going to build it. It was a 14-page document, roughly 14 or 11 page. And they called the XRP ledger the global RTGS. This is one of the only documents where we see XRP being called the global RTGS. Now we have a document saying that the unified ledger has the potential to become a global RTGS. Coming from a central bank. I think it's Bundesbank. I think it's a German central bank that published this document, or it leaked. So, anyways, that's how we come to the point that the unified ledger, shared ledger, reliability network, the Finternet, you see the Bank for International Settlements always talking about unified ledger and Finternet concept together. So they're one and the same. And that's how we prove it's all the same thing. Now, because Quant unifies everything, because Quant is the true interoperability solution to connect anything to anything, a lot of people in the Quant community that haven't done years and years and years of research in XRP assume that the unified ledger is Quant. I don't blame them because it's very hard to dissect which one is which, because Gilbert Verdian often talks about a unified ledger, and sometimes when they talk about Quant, what Quant does, they use sometimes the word unified, but we prove clearly from documents that the unified ledger is the XRP ledger. Now, Gilbert Verdian and Quant provides the programmability, interoperability, and custom APIs for the shared ledger, for the unified ledger. And Gilbert Verdian always said, we are the Internet of Trust. We are the Internet of Trust. He never said we are the Internet of Value. I was very excited the other day because Gilbert Verdian posted something on his Twitter, and he said we will bring something along the lines like we provide the programmability for the institutional Internet of Value. So he's not saying that they're the institutional Internet of Value. Gilbert Verdian is saying that Quant is going to provide the interoperability for the institutional Internet of Value. That's still on his Twitter right now. So he's not saying, he's saying they're providing the programmability for it. If you're providing the programmability for it, you can't be it. You're bringing something to it, right? Gilbert Verdian always said we are the Internet of Trust, because he interconnects everything that exists to blockchain, and blockchain represents trust. So Gilbert Verdian always said we are the Internet of Trust. But here, Gilbert Verdian is saying that we are bringing programmability to the Internet of Value. So he's clearly showing a distinction between the Internet of Value and the Internet of Trust. And that's why when he was talking about the regulated liability network, he said we provided the programmability, interoperability, and custom APIs for the project, but we also partner with R3, who's bringing the shared ledger.
It's really all in one and the same name.
Yeah. So Quant is providing the programmability, interoperability, and custom APIs for the regulated liability network, for the unified ledger, for the Finternet. Why? All those 5 different words they use for it. And the institutional Internet of Value, which also was called the regulated Internet of Value. They're providing programmability for it. Why? Because it's all the same thing. It's the XRP ledger.
Jesse, is it truly a and/or when it comes to XRP realistically serving a role as kind of being like the IMF with the special drawing rights, or is it more of that Swift replacement global RTGS? Can it be both and, or does it have to be one or the other?
All meaning that Swift would still play a role?
Well, I'm saying for the IMF, so can Ripple play the role in terms of the IMF for the reserve asset, as well as providing the global RTGS as that replacing or complementing Swift? Is it an and statement?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Say that last part again. Can they play the role of the IMF
Or being that Swift replacement? Could it be an and? Can they play the role as the IMF and Swift?
Well, Swift is simply going to settle through XRP. Like, so Swift is not necessarily going away. It's just that XRP complements Swift.
Right.
So Swift is still there for the messaging, and they're just using XRP to settle. And,
Yes.
and I proved this on my website. I mean, one of the guys, he's with is it Haven. I can't remember the name of the bank. He was a manager at Swift for years, for 20 years, and he talks about how XRP complements Swift, and it's not a matter of replacing Swift.
I agree
now
with
we've
you.
got the,
Yeah.
yeah, and now we've got the CEO of Swift CEO of Swift talking highly about Ripple, and then yeah, it's always was planned that Swift is going to use Ripple to settle transactions. But so I think like when you saw Brad Garlinghouse, CEO, and other people saying, there's this like rivalry between Swift and Ripple, that was all act. Like,
Right.
give them an Oscar. To me, like, no, this has been planned for years that Swift is going to use Ripple for XRP. It's like Swift 2.0, kind of. You know what I mean? So, yeah, Swift will settle through XRP for sure, because you can't do anything. Like, as soon as one bank starts using Ripple, you'll never use Swift again. Because when you send a payment internationally, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 days to settle, sometimes a week. You have like a 6-7% error rate. You don't even know where the payment is. All the banks and call centers, they deal with numerous calls, like, where's my payment? Did it go through? What the heck's going on? They have no transparency. And when you send a payment through Swift, you can't even tell the recipient how much it's going to cost them for the payment, because they don't know. Like, it's very obsolete. It's pre-internet. The Swift system is pre-internet, right? So yeah, nobody's going to be doing anything through Swift. Like, they can send a message through Swift,
Right.
but the settlement's going to be XRP. Okay, so Ripple.
So it could act as both. It will be the messaging layer for Swift when we say XRP is replacing
The settlement layer, yeah.
for Swift, or the messaging
Yeah,
layer.
it'll. Well, it's very interesting because the Swift GPI, literally does almost the same thing as the Ripple, the first product they had. What's the name of it again? Oh man, we can go in a deep rabbit hole there. So I think the Swift GPI was doing the same thing as the first product Ripple had, which is the what is it called? Ripple. You had, oh my goodness, I'm having a total blank right now.
This is OpenCoin days.
No. When RippleNet started, you had like 3 different products. You could just send a message, or at least you could tell your customer like what the cost of the payment was going to be. The sender, recipient. There was transparency in the messaging, and if they wanted to, they could settle with XRP as well. And I forget what the name of that product is. My goodness, some people are probably listening right now and they're like, it's this name. Xcurrent, I think.
Yeah.
Xcurrent, you couldn't communicate. Like, you just sent a payment and you would know a week later if it got there, and you would have the information on that payment, kind of. Like, it's very, very clunky. But with Ripple Xcurrent, you could literally, the messaging was more standardized, where you could show, like, the messaging between the banks was more clear, basically. The Swift GPI did the same thing, so I'm almost suspecting that, like, Ripple helped Swift to build GPI, maybe. Like, the Swift GPI is just almost a clone of Xcurrent. Like, crazy, right?
So just so I'm caught up and I'm following you, XRP could theoretically be complemented with Swift for the messaging layer, but also complemented or serve as the role as the IMF for your reserve asset. So you're talking Swift for the messaging and the IMF for settlement. Am I following you?
Well, Rip, Ripple, Ripple has a product that does messaging as well. But I'm just saying, like Swift has 10,000 banks, so why not just interconnect them? It's very easy to connect into XRP Ledger and settle via the XRP Ledger, settle your transaction, and the messaging tool. So, wow, how do I explain that? Um, I think Swift GPI does, like I said, what Xcurrent does to a certain degree. But like Swift would just tap into XRP and RippleNet to basically get all those advantages. Like you don't have to shut down Swift completely
Right.
and put down the whole 10,000 bank network. It just connects into RippleNet and it just automatically gets all the benefits of RippleNet and the XRP later. That would be the easiest way to explain it, I think. And then yeah, like the for XRP, I mean for Ripple, I mean either Ripple is becomes a subsidiary or owned maybe by the IMF or numerous central banks and the IMF, or it just passes on the escrow or like it's like whatever like that. To me, you can almost see Ripple as the IMF disguised as a private company, or doing the IMF's bidding.
That's so crazy
Okay,
to think about.
that's how I see it, and it makes me nervous every time I say that. And I swear to God, because they've done everything to hide that. If I'm correct. My point is, you cannot do what you're doing as a private company. They cannot do what they're doing unless they're backed by the very top. Come on, like they're replacing the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency to a certain degree for global trade.
Right.
Like they're doing 100 times bigger than what anybody else ever tried to do, and they were stopped.
This is not your
So
normal
this is
company. This is
no,
there's somebody that is almost and I know you've spoken how Ripple was created in 2004 at the same time that ISO 222 also got implemented. So there's so many breadcrumbs that make it be to seem that this private company was created or instituted and implemented in order for it to kind of ease this new way of something that has been methodically planned for the last I don't know 50 years.
yeah, and David Schwartz, when he was working for the most powerful three-letter agency in the world, was awarded a distributed ledger computer patent.
Hmm.
So this is a patent identical to Bitcoin's technology. He was awarded that in 1989. He submitted the patent in 1988. The same year, The Economist magazine came out talking about saying, "Get ready for a new world reserve currency because of a new technology." Where the okay, you following?
Yep. The
And
breadcrumbs
then
are there.
a few years later, there's a paper that comes out, same agency, talking about cryptography, how to create a mint. Okay, this is in 1991, I think. And then, or there was also some papers in the 1980s about that. And then we see the Bitcoin technology, which I think is SH256 or something. Bitcoin uses the same technology that the three-letter agencies had in the 1990s, which is I think it's SH256. And then the Bitcoin white paper comes out in 2008. No, I'm not buying it. They needed that story in order for us to accept the idea of digitization. They said it's Nakamoto. We don't know who he is. This is going to be great because we're going to get away from the banks, get away from government, so on. And everybody embraced it because it's great. Yeah, let's get away from big government. Let's get away from the big banks, right? And everybody embraces this new technology. So we're embracing the idea of digitization.
It's almost so odd because Bitcoin does have that approach, at least within the community, of kind of going against the system, right? This decentralization, this break, this tie away from your traditional banking, and then some a players Ripple is where they say we're not going to challenge the infrastructure. We're actually going to complement it and work with it. So I've read the theories about the three-letter agency, the David Schwartz patent as well. Do you think that they kind of created this Bitcoin narrative of fighting against the system and this freedom that they're displaying over people's eyes to kind of receive that global adoption? And then it's almost like a Trojan horse, as if you may,
Yeah.
and then they'll usher in the actual technology that is kind of
No, that's what I meant. 100%. They literally gave us that story so that we would embrace the idea of digitization and blockchain tokenization. Because once you do a transaction on a blockchain, if it touches any regulated exchange at any point, Because if we sign up with an exchange, you have to give your name and ID and address and everything, right? So once your crypto transaction hits that exchange that's regulated, from there they know every single transaction. Government will know every single transaction that you do after that, because now they have your identity. You've now transacted with a regulated exchange, right?
Right. Yep.
So like blockchain is it's the opposite, and what's happening, and I'm sorry for the Bitcoin people listening, but they're not realizing that, because 95% of people in Bitcoin, even 95% of people in Ripple XRP community, I think, but especially in the Bitcoin community, most of them don't realize that the Nakamoto story is not even true. It just, and for those that think I'm crazy, just Google search David Schwartz Bitcoin patent and see what pops up. It's a distributed computer system patent. Distributed computer systems. It's, you go through the patent, you see it's distributed ledger technology, 1988, and then Google search cryptography, how to create a mint. That's another document that came about cryptography. So the idea that cryptography only came out in 2008 is complete BS. It's not true. I'm sorry. It's not true. You can keep on believing it if you want, but it's not true. It's not true.
Well,
And you can just Google search right now and see that it's not true. But if you don't want to know truth, don't Google search what I told you to Google search.
that's basically the primary objective of this entire community that we're developing, is questioning the norms and trying to figure out what the truth is. Can we jump a little bit into the Bank of International Settlements and certain projects?
Oh boy.
So we've seen projects from the BIS like Project Nexus, Keystone, Enbridge. Talk to me a little bit about what any type of BIS project where Ripple or the XRP ledger itself has been involved or even enacted behind the scenes.
Yeah, so many of those projects, so the BIS is the central banks for all central banks. They have what's called the Innovation Hub. And there's about, I think it's 43 projects there, or 41 or 43 projects, I think it's 41 to be exact. Different projects with the Innovation Hub. Many of them involve CBDCs. The majority of them involve either DLT technology, tokenization, CBDCs, especially CBDCs, and a bit of AI as well, and so on. And if you look at the majority of the projects, like all the projects that talking about whether it's new ways to manage liquidity cross-border, or it's talking about CBDCs or DLT, unified ledger, so on and so forth. Look at all of those that involve CBDCs, put that in the AI and ask it, what are the similarities? 'Cause the reason I use AI is just because rather than me having to read a 100-page document, right, and then trying to explain it with the proper wording, the AI just gives you the old overview right away, right? So take that and you put in AI and said, tell me this project here, what similarities does it have with XRP Ledger, RippleNet, Ripple the company, or the CBDC platform that Ripple has, including the Interledger protocol. I mean, everything about Ripple. Compare this project here at the Innovation Hub, let's say Project Keystone or Project Enbridge, let's say, and tell me what are the similarities. And the AI will tell you 3 pages of how it's absolutely identical. Everything is identical. This is identical to the Interledger protocol because of this, and this, and this, and this. This is identical to the CBDC platform that Ripple has because of this, and this, and this, and this. This portion here of the document is identical to RippleNet because of this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Like, it's unreal. Like, it's so identical, so it has to be either Ripple or Stellar. And Stellar doesn't have a CBDC platform, so I think the majority of them is technically XRP, but I'm not saying that Stellar is not involved in some of these projects too, right? But I think Stellar, my understanding, it's more for peer-to-peer and small, medium enterprises. But Stellar is big, don't get me wrong, okay? So, but the technology described there can only be Ripple and XRP, Ripple and Stellar, or Stellar. But the majority of them, it's only Ripple because they don't have the CBDC platform that Ripple has, and a few things that they might not have. But it's Ripple and or Stellar at best. Most of them likely more Ripple. But again, bit of Stellar as well, right? No, I'm not putting down Stellar. So, it's the same thing. It's cross-border payment, instant liquidity, removing non-provoster accounts, ISO 20022 compliant. Ripple is the only blockchain company on the governance body of the ISO 20022. not saying it's the only crypto that's compliant with the ISO 20022, but it's the only one on the governance body helping to guide and set the standards and governance for the ISO 20022.
Jesse, I can't tell you how many debates I've gotten into people about whether an asset can actually be utilized within ISO 222 compliant systems. Can these assets actually be utilized? A lot of people, they like to target that ISO 222 compliant coins. It's the compliant that they're actually focusing on rather than understanding how the asset actually works within the systems that are transferring these messages. Can you speak to me a little bit about how these assets, your ISO coins, talk to me a little bit about that and what are the misconceptions with that?
That is one thing that I'm not, like, I haven't researched like crazy, like
Okay.
what's the real difference? Like, why does H bar have an advantage just because it's ISO compliant, right? Um, I mean, they're definitely working with the system and like the financial system for sure. The fact that they're ISO compliant, right? But they, I, I'm kind of of the belief that there are other cryptos, like even if they're not ISO compliant, they're still going to have utility and use cases and like crazy, right? Like I'm not leaning on like, okay, you're ISO compliant, it's only you and then nothing else is going to survive that's not ISO compliant. I don't think. But yeah, my strength is more researching on like XRP and ISO 20022. I'm not sure what is the crazy advantage that it gives to all the other ones that are ISO compliant. And that
So
is something I should study
from
actually.
my understanding of the difference between it's the difference between reference and settlement. And
Oh,
this,
that's what you're wondering?
well, this is the difference, like why XRP can actually be utilized and meme coins actually can't. You know why,
Oh,
like
okay.
why Farcoin can't settle but XRP can. It's the whole difference within
Oh, oh,
within the
oh,
settlement of
oh. Okay, yeah, I
referencing
can
and
explain that.
settlement.
I can explain that. Yeah, yeah, I can explain that. So the ISO 20022, which was created same year Ripple technically started. We see some emails coming from not Arthur Brito, but somebody else talking about Ripple Network in 2004. ISO is absolutely mandatory for Ripple success because what the ISO 20022 does is that it puts all of the banks in the world on the same messaging format. Meaning, like if a bank in the U.S. sends a payment to a bank in Europe, when the bank sends a payment, because prior to the ISO 20022 initiative, the banks all over the world had different messaging formats for the payments. So one bank, the messaging format might be like the sender's name, the recipient's name, the institutional sending institution, the recipient institution, and so on and so forth. Then for the other bank in another country, the format for the payment was the first line was maybe the institution instead of the sender, instead of the name of the sender. Second line might be the branch number, then the account number, and then maybe the name of the client and the name of sender, and so on and so
Right.
forth. So the messaging format was not the same. So if you want to be able to settle transactions instantly, that messaging format has to be precisely the same as well between all the banks. Because when that money hits their account, the bank needs to know like who the heck sent it, from where, at what time, what's the sending institution, what's the account number, what's the branch number, who's the recipient, all this, like they need to know all these things. So that's why they needed to create the ISO 20022 in order to create this internet value, in order for Ripple to be successful. Because you can settle transactions within seconds with XRP, but the bank still has to receive the information on that payment
Right.
and understand what the heck is the information on that payment, right? So XR, like even though H bar, so I want to make that clear. So even if H bar and other tokens are ISO compliant, it does not make them a liquidity bridge asset. It doesn't mean that automatically now they're competing with XRP for settlement. They're not purposely built as settlement assets. Okay, like to be a purpose-built settlement asset, you need to have the interledger protocol, the XRP ledger, RippleNet for the network of banks and the liquidity, and you need to have, like the XRP ledger has a decentralized exchange and a decentralized order book, and it has the most advanced AMM, automated market makers, that we can contribute liquidity in those pools. And like you need to have all of those, and you need to be purpose-built. You need to be able to press a button, and your asset automatically converts to XRP and automatically converts into another asset instantly. Ripple doesn't do, HBAR doesn't do that. XDC doesn't do that. I know a lot of people think like XDC is going to replace for Corda is going to be a settlement. No, XDC is for tokenization of all trade documents. It's not necessarily like, I'm not saying they don't settle. It settles transaction to a certain degree because you're tokenizing all these different trade documents on the XDC network. But it's not a bridge asset. Like,
And
it
they
doesn't
still
have
lack
the
that
ripple
liquidity as well. XTC.
Yeah, it lacks the liquidity as well.
Right. Yeah.
And I did a video on that, like a deep dive, just really explaining the difference. Because a lot of people think, like for Corda, you don't need XRP anymore, and it doesn't complement the Corda network anymore because you have XDC, and that's not XRP's XDC's specialty.
Right.
Like it doesn't specialize in being a bridge asset.
Right.
Like you can settle with XDC, but okay, so you'd have to settle. Okay, I'm gonna go from USD to XDC, and now I want euros, so I would have to look on an exchange somewhere. Can I exchange my XDC for euros somewhere where there's enough liquidity? But that's not what XRP does. It's not the same. You can settle in any transaction if you can try to find some liquidity somewhere, but like you have to have the network, you have, like I said, you have to have the decentralized order books, you have to have the decentralized exchange that Ripple has on the XRP ledger, you have to have the XRP ledger first of all, and you have to have the interledger protocol, and you have to have everything else. So like I'm just want to point out that even though like a token is ISO 20022 compliant, it doesn't mean it's Ripple replacing Ripple or XRP for that settlement bridge asset.
Sure.
It's going to be used in a system, but not as a bridge asset.
Exactly.
Except for XLM, except for Stellar. Sorry.
And that's the education that I try to get to people is the difference between utility and speculation, and I try to focus people's perspective on the actual rails that are designed to move trillions of dollars. Now, I understand that any token or any coin can be referenced in an ISO 222 message, Doge, Shiba, regardless, but only the tokens with the ISO 4217 style codes, and that's your U.S. currency fields that your U.S. dollar, your yen, your things like that. They can actually be functional within that, and that's where you get that 0.04% of cryptos that have that ISO.
Well, sorry to cut you off. I want to add something. King Solomon, shout out to him. He did a video about 2-3 weeks ago. I should listen to it again. He was showing though that I think like a lot of the ISO was coming up with giving an identifier number to all of the tokens that exist.
Explain that to me.
So they would maybe have like a legal identifier. It doesn't mean that like I don't know if it was not under ISO 20022 though. It was under ISO
4217 maybe.
Maybe, but
where they
like
could be classified as an actual currency.
Not a currency, but like a token, a cryptocurrency or whatever. But they were gonna be given identification numbers. Which, like, Solomon was proving that we're literally going into the, like I said, the tokenization age, and the majority of the tokens are going to be given identification number under ISO. Now, it doesn't mean that they're ISO 20022 compliant, I'm not sure, but they were being brought under, they're going to be given an identifier number under the ISO, I guess. So you want to Google search King Solomon ISO something.
He's great.
He had the document. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was blown away. So, because they're going to do, like we're gonna have a lot of like ETFs, right? Like a lot of these are gonna be ETFs. Like you're probably gonna have a PayPay ETF, and you're gonna have they're gonna do it's coming. Like a lot of these tokens they're gonna have ETFs. Solana, many of them, right? Maybe eventually the top 50 has all ETF and maybe whatever, but it's being merged in with the traditional system. But like you said, like where you want to play with the global banks and central banks and like. I think the ISO 20022 is massive. And I want to add too that even though I was saying that HBAR doesn't replace XRP, I want to say like what you're explaining in your videos, like XDC is massive. XDC is global trade. HBAR is huge. Like these utility tokens that I said, they're not going to replace XRP just because they're ISO 20022. They are huge. You can see that they're working with the system and they've made them ISO 20022 compliant. For a reason, and they have massive use cases like HBAR and stuff. Yeah, so just want to point that out. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that HBAR, XDC, and or whatever projects are ISO 20022 compliant are like not going to do anything because they're not going to replace XRP. Like, no, it's not.
I'd like to jump a little bit into Ripple's transparency NDAs things like that. How much do you actually think is going on with Ripple behind the scenes under NDAs that we just can't see yet?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All the money.
All the money in the world.
All the money.
TAM
pretty
is
much.
all
Like,
the money.
Seller is gonna take a portion, but I mean it's all the money. It's I mean in this fake lawsuit, give him an award. For
That's
this
actually
lawsuit.
another topic I did want to talk to you about, but
Oh,
please go on.
uh, um, yeah, like it came out right in the lawsuit that they had 700 NDAs, 700 NDAs.
Yep.
That these were
1,700.
1,700. I keep saying 1,400, but it seems that it's 1,700. I was mistaken. I had 1,400 plugged in my brain. I was always telling my videos 1,400, but everybody kept correcting me and saying it's 1,700. So I think
1,700.
it's 17, or was it 17 that I had in my brain? And anyways, 1,400 or 1,700, but I'm 99% sure it's 1,700. I think NDAs and contracts that they have with institutions and business or whatever corporations and institutions to bring, I think, utility to the XRP ledger to RippleNet. And so if we look at one of them that they had, one deal that they had was R3 Corda. Originally, they gave $5 billion to R3 to bring utility to the XRP ledger. There was a lawsuit. It seems R3 was not holding their weight, and they settled for a little over 1 billion XRP. R3 Corda got to keep 1 billion XRP. Okay, so that's one deal. But here in the court documents, they're admitting that they have 1,700 NDAs like this. And Corda, I just want to point out, Corda, I said 95% earlier, I was mistaken. R3 Corda, 5 years ago, had over, 3 or 5 years ago, had over 90% of the banks connected to R3 Corda. This is public. This is a public statement coming from the R3 CTO. The same guy that was being interviewed and said, the only thing I can't talk about is Ripple. And the guy interviewing him said, geez, that was supposed to be the genesis for our call. Oh, yeah, well, tough luck, kind of, right? He said, the only thing I can't talk about is Ripple.
And that's what's crazy about the NDAs is like you're saying, R3, yeah, that's one part of the 1,700 NDAs, but little do you know that all of the enterprises and banks that are connected to R3, or you look at Finastra, right? The 9,000 banks that Finastra has, that's just one, and then there's a whole tree line underneath that one partnership that connects into a multitude of a spider web of an industry.
CLS, we know XRP is the underlying infrastructure for FedNow.
Yeah.
Swift, I mean, on and on and on. Yeah. So I'm not saying they're all big like R3, but R3 made it publicly that 90% of banks in the world were connecting to R3. This is a few years ago, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Maybe it's 95% now. It doesn't matter. 90% is enough. Like, right?
Talk to me a little bit, because some people say that that's old news. XRP, R3, XDC, R3. They say it's old news.
Yeah, to me, respectfully, I don't care. It's new. Like if I'm doing a video and I need to explain, like when I do a video and I'm connecting dots, I'm not saying it's new news. I'm not saying it's new news.
I'm saying like they moved on, right? They're no longer using XRP. They're no longer using XDC. Like that's old. That's old information.
No, to me that's nonsense, because when I get that in comments sometimes, and don't get me wrong, 99% of people are amazing, but you get a few people like to poke, I think, just to poke. But to me, that argument like, oh well, that's an old document or that's old news, it's 5 years ago, it's kind of obsolete. Because I hear that it's either like, oh, that's an old partnership, they won't, it's obsolete or it's old or whatever, or that's an old document. To me, it's like, no, this just shows how long this has been planned. The argument that this document is an old document or this relationship is an old relationship, therefore it's no longer relevant. To me, that's crazy.
Well, they would almost have to provide the proof that the proof of concept between Ripple or XDC with R3 was formally closed. If that has never been formally closed, then there's no indication that has ever.
Well, I'll tell you the connection here. Okay, so R3 was given 5 billion XRPs. Okay, and then there was a lawsuit. They weren't holding their weight, and it was SBI Holding that brought the two together and helped to settle the lawsuit, because SBI is the biggest private shareholder of Ripple and also the biggest shareholder, I believe, in R3. SBI Holding is a big consortium of banks in Japan, so like 90% of banks in Japan or whatever. And so they settled on 1 billion XRP. And the reason is because R3 brought the R3 Corda, the R3 Corda Settler. The Corda Settler, and this is public, we can pull it right now. The Corda Settler The announcement was Corda Settler, R3 Corda Settler, Corda Settler launched using XRP as the first settlement asset. Now, they did say first settlement asset, which implies that maybe they could add more later. I do agree with that. But once you really study, they have to say it like that. They're not going to say, even if it was the case, they're not going to say, we're only going to use XRP for settlement. They'll never say it like that. They can't word it like that. I'm surprised they even made it public that the Corda Settler uses XRP for settlement, right? Now, what people need to understand is there is no other settlement asset aside from Stellar that has the liquidity and the technology necessary to do instant settlement from any type of asset to any type of asset.
I think it's also important
Again, Solana doesn't do that.
I think it's also important to pay attention to how these assets are actually functioning within R3. And when you say settlement, settlement's a very broad term. XDC was focusing on token bridging and tokenized asset settlement. Now, Solana's new partnership and integration with R3 focuses on infrastructure and stablecoin-based settlement. So that term settlement is very broad. You got to pay attention. Is it tokenized asset settlement? Is it stablecoin-based settlement?
I think XRP still does tokenized asset settlement, definitely. But I think R3 is more for the tokenization of trade documents. So literally letters of credits, purchase orders, letters of credit, insurance on the product, like everything that involves global trade. So all the documents, the invoicing, everything. So once they tokenize it and they put it on the XinFin network, which is XDC, now because the documents, the legal documents, are in the form like letters of credit, like I said, purchase orders, invoices,
POLs.
insurance for the POLs, yeah, all those things. Because it's in the form of a token now on the XinFin network, now it can move in smart contracts. Now you can program all of this, and you can confirm like, oh, the document is good. Yes, it's signed. It meets all the requirements. Boom. We can move on to the next process of this global trade transaction. But when it comes to doing the actual settlement, when a product is being sent overseas, and the supplier wants to receive the payment from the buyer, and the supplier is, like I said, he's in Europe, and the buyer is in another country, well, another currency, you need a liquidity, you need a bridge asset.
Yes.
And that's where XRP plays a role. Like XDC doesn't play that. It's not a bridge asset to settle going from one, because this is global trade. So like 90% of transactions are international, or 80% of the transactions would be technically international. So you need a bridge asset for the liquidity. And like I said, only XRP is purpose built for that bridging.
Well, that's the whole thing. I don't think that it's I don't think that they're fighting with each other or trying to replace each other. It's a complement. They're complementing each other.
They're complementary because even for Corda, because XRP allows the Corda network and XDC to literally settle instantly and so on and so forth. But then at the same time, Corda and XDC and XinFin network bring use cases, bring utility to the XRP ledger, because when you want to settle all of their different businesses that they're doing and everything, you need to settle, use XRP. Right. So they're complementary.
Jesse, talk to me about the lawsuit narrative. You say that the SEC lawsuit was a hoax. It was for pure regulation, movie, theater. Did it play a bigger part of keeping XRP suppressed, and why?
Yeah, I think it was all theater. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if I can go in great detail about how they can orchestrate this. I think it's theater. People have to understand that there's a very powerful organizations that sometimes, not all the time, but the CEOs and of different corporations have these different contracts that are classified under national security, do certain things, and if they breach that contract, they can have extremely serious implications to, like, so these are very powerful national agencies that different people, the only way you can know this, if you have to listen to a few whistleblowers that used to work for these agencies. They became whistleblowers, and they explain how these agencies work and how they get CEOs and vice presidents and certain people within government and private corporations to do certain things. And it's all under national security. And if you, like I said, if you end up going against it, or you change your mind halfway, you say, you start being vocal, like, no, I'm not doing this, like, you you can face 25 years of prison because it's under the national security umbrella. So like coordinating a fake lawsuit, and because I can almost prove it. I feel I have certain things I don't want to say. To me, 98% chance it was coordinated.
Well,
It's all
it's a
coordinated.
double-edged sword. They present this one image, meanwhile something else is completely going on over here. Maybe, just maybe, it was created for the most utmost legal clarity. Maybe it was created for a reason, for
Oh,
maybe the
why?
system to catch up. But there's no doubt that I mean, maybe that it was created to intentionally keep the price low.
Oh, okay, okay. So your question is, if it's a fake lawsuit, what's the advantage of
Well,
having
I
a
was
fake
asking
lawsuit?
you your perspective on the fake
Okay,
lawsuit,
yeah.
and now I'm kind of jumping
I,
into, well,
oh, yeah. Okay. I think it is. To me, 98% sure it is. Because it's been planned for very, 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 very long time. I don't think they're gonna allow like just this. Okay, I'll explain it a bit this way. Many things I could say, but let me explain it this way. So, I don't think they would allow the SEC, or a small regulatory, like everybody looks at SEC like they're the most powerful thing in the world. Like, no, SEC is peanuts compared to the central bankers. Like, trust you me, like the SEC commissioner is a joke compared to Federal Reserve and the central bankers and the IMF and the BIS. I mean, the SEC, like, yeah, it's a global regulator, but who's above them? And that's what people have to research. Who's at the top? Who decides when wars start and when they finish? That's what you have to look into, right? So, to a certain degree, um, and who finances both sides of the conflict. Anyways, so I'll rewind a bit. I'll digest and digress. So, like, in order for that to be orchestrated, you don't have to have many players. Like, SEC, a judge, a few lawyers, the team at Ripple, a few people. They signed very, very heavy agreements. They agreed to do, to go with this. So for me, I think it's orchestrated because, again, because it's been planned for years. I know it's been planned for years. And again, I might be wrong here, but to me, I think this is all orchestrated. And to me, I'm 99, like, to me, 100% sure, but I might be wrong. Like, so that's why
so
I say, oh,
who
90%.
who benefits from this?
There's a few things. So, like, by getting sued by the government, like, and again, this is all speculation. I'm just gonna give you 3 or 4 examples of
Yeah.
why this could be beneficial, right? So, first of all, you get the crypto community on your side. You're fighting the government for crypto. You're fighting for crypto, right? And what's the perfect disguise? If you want to do something and go really disguise, get sued by the government. Like if you don't want to, if you don't want to look like your government operation, get sued by the government.
Yep.
Act as if the
Like they're
government's
not
trying.
working
Per,
together.
yeah, it's a
It's
perfect
Yep,
disguise.
it's a
Like how
disguise
can you
as
be
if they're
working for the
not working
government, or
together.
how can you be working for the establishment when the establishment seems to throw everything at you and you're the only company getting sued?
Yep.
It looks like you're the only one fighting for crypto, when in reality, what if it's just kind of orchestrated to give that impression? Okay, that's number one. Number two, it keeps the retailers out, scared like hell. That's number two. Number three, it gives the perspective of regulatory uncertainty. Because the media was spitting that narrative all the time. Oh, because of the SEC lawsuit, we don't know. Is this ever going to go mainstream? What's the regulation? Be careful with crypto. It's unregulated territory. Like it gave so much uncertainty to the average retail investor.
Scare them
So it
out.
gave, yeah, and that's what the media, mainstream media narrative was spitting all the time.
Yep.
Right? We don't have clarity. We have lawsuit. This is so unstable. This is so much uncertainty. So again, scaring the retailer, allowing. So that's again same thing, I guess. Creates a regulatory uncertainty, creates doubt. It buys them time as well, gives them the 5, 6, 7, 8 years they need to literally set up the global regulations at a G20 level, right? Yeah, line up the ducks, make sure, okay, so it gives them time to set up the infrastructure, set up the regulations, so on and so forth with their partners, and have that what's called a public-private relationship. Because the central banks and the IMF have always talking about having a public-private relationship. Public meaning government, private meaning the private sector, companies like Ripple and BlackRock and whatever, so on and so forth, right? So it gives them time, and also this I'm not sure, but this is what I was speculating. I think it's a pretty good one. Um, if you keep the price low for a while, like think about this. If Ripple has 700 NDAs, where they have because the contract with R3 was that if you do this and this and this, you'll have the option to buy XRP, 5 billion XRP. Because sorry, I shouldn't say it's not a giveaway. They had the option to buy XRP at 0.008, so it was like less than a penny. It was an option to buy. So if you did this and this and this, met your obligation, you had an option to buy this many XRPs at less than a penny in 3 years, right? So obviously Ripple is likely doing that with many other companies as well, right? They're doing it with R3. Obviously they're incentivizing partners, and this is what these 700 NDAs are. So now my point is, if Ripple is 50 cents or 35 cents or 40 cents for many years because of the lawsuit and because of the uncertainty and because maybe they're manipulating the price as well, suppressing it somehow else with their partners and market makers, I'm not sure. I'm just very surprised that the price is still low. To me, I think it's being suppressed somehow. I can't prove it, and I'm not sure. So if the price is 50 cents for a while, that gives you the time to incentivize partners, because you're saying, hey, bring your network to us, CLS and Swift and this guy and R3, and like bring your network utility to us, to the network, XRP Ledger or RippleNet. We'll give you, okay, this is your network, this is volume, okay, we'll give you, 100 million XRPs for you at this price, and for you it's 300 million XRP, and for you, oh, you're a central bank, okay, for you it's maybe 1 billion XRP or whatever, right? You're getting them again, this is total speculation. I'm just saying how maybe this is one of the incentives they had. So now you say, okay, we're going to give you this many XRPs to your partners. You say, we're going to give you this many XRPs at 40 cents each. And when this goes all live and we have the full Internet of Value flourishing and all this volume is going through the XRP Ledger and RippleNet, the XRP, let's say, is going to be $1,000. So now, partner A and partner B, you will have multiplied your money 2,000 times because you got the XRP at 50 cents. And we're proving to you based on volume and so on that this can hit 1,000, 2,000, let's say 3,000. So you've multiplied your money 2,000 times. But if XRP is already $100, because there's no lawsuit and everybody knows how crazy it is and everybody buys, you have retailers and institutions, everybody jumps in, and XRP is $100, well now it's not easy to incentivize partners because Ripple's already $100, right? So if you go to them and say, hey, bring your volume to us, and we'll give you XRP at $100, and it'll be 1,000. Okay, they multiply their money 10 times, but it's not like going to them and say, hey, XRP is 30 cents right now, and a matter of fact, it's 50 cents. Well, we'll give it to you for 15 cents, because with R3 they gave it for less than a penny, right? So it's not the same. You go to them and you say, like going to them when XRP is $100, asking them to join the network. It's not the same like going to them when XRP is 50 cents and saying, hey, you'll multiply your money 2,000 times.
And they're incentivizing them to implement Ripple's technology to the clients.
Yeah.
And I also think that the lawsuit, what it did was it was almost like, again, I say this Trojan horse, but it's such a perfect example. If Ripple is going to become the private company that's going to onboard the global RTGS, and we're already at a point where the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency, and we're shifting into this digital era, right? Why some nations, some countries may sit there and think, if this lawsuit wasn't there, they may think, why are we going to even acknowledge another U.S. based company? You know what I'm saying? So that lawsuit might have just painted this picture that the U.S. was against XRP, and that allowed XRP or Ripple to go globally and to acquire the rest of the globe. Meanwhile, they're sitting at the table thinking, the United States, this may not look so good for Ripple. They're anti-XRP. So that might have just been a means for the rest of the world to onboard, to come in, like a Trojan horse. I say it, but it's such a perfect example.
That's definitely one too as well. But for the central banks and the countries, most of them are tied to this institution that we talked about earlier that I said might be probably disguised as Ripple. Most of them, if you have a neutral bridge currency and you have on-demand liquidity, you're kind of forcing every country to adopt it.
Yeah. They have
Because it's
to,
the only way
otherwise
you have-
it's
yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, and because this is what David Short said in one of his he wasn't live, it wasn't a video, it was an audio, and he says like if every country wants to build their own CBDCs and these siloed things, these siloed systems, then we're just going to create a big red button that they can press when they need to go cross border. And somebody asked him about, well, you know, how would it work? Like nobody's ever going to agree to like for somebody else being a global reserve currency. And he says, listen, 99.9% of the countries in the world know they'll never be the next global reserve currency. Only have like 2 or 3 countries that could be the next global reserve currency.
So you might as well pick a decentralized.
Yeah, says you might as well, and if you're that country, which is 98% of them, you would rather go with a neutral bridge currency, choose that one, because you know that your rival, right, is not rather than going with another country's currency that might be your rival, like you're better off going with a neutral bridge currency.
Yeah.
Because you know you're not the one, right? Because there's only like 2 or 3 countries that could maybe be the next global reserve currency. So he was kind of explaining why everybody would prefer a neutral bridge currency.
Yep.
There's only like maybe 1 or 2 countries that might not want, and at the same time, even if they want to be the global reserve currency, they're going to run into the same issues as the Triffin's dilemma that the U.S. faced, where they have to run deficits. You can't run deficits forever. Like, come on, like. How can you run deficits and get ahead? I'm not sure. I'm not an economist, but it doesn't sound good to me. If you have to run trade deficits all the time to supply the world with your currency because you're the global reserve currency, I don't think long term this is good. Like I don't know. I'm not. What's his name? I forget his name. Richard. What's his name? He wrote the book. One of the top. Anyways, I can't think of his name. It's all good.
A lot to question. Almost everything that some people may have thought about XRP, maybe you're sitting here flipping that script, and maybe it is bigger than just this coin. I'd like to jump. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Yes.
So for the price of XRP, the potential price of XRP, we talked about being the internet value, capturing the value of an internet, and also just cross border alone, Nostro Vostro is like 10 to 20 trillion per day. You're moving 10 to 20 trillion per day. That's just the money that moves globally right now. You look at FX and SWIFT and all these things, right? So it's 10 to 20 trillion per day cross border right now. 10 to 20 trillion. Now, people need to understand. If I forget the name of the guy, but he did a video, and I'm pretty sure he was running a simulation right on the XRP ledger, the public ledger, right?
Oh, Robert Mitchnick.
No, that's the calculator. That's the XRP calculator. Forget his name. Anyway, just recently he did a video, and it was showing how if you take 10 billion order, if you take an order, you place an order of 10 billion right now on the order books on the XRP ledger. I'm pretty sure it was the public XRP ledger. I don't think it was doing this on an exchange. I'm pretty sure it was the XRP ledger itself. If you put in an order for 10 billion, the market cap right now is 150 billion, right? Roughly 165 maybe billion. I'm not sure. If you put an order of 10 billion, which only represents about 6% of what the market cap is, the price does a 30x.
Yep.
That's what people don't understand. People think like, oh, the market cap is 175 billion. So in order for the price to double, you need to have 175 billion of volume come in. That is incorrect, guys, because people don't understand how order books work. You have a buy and sell order. It's an order book. The price jumps. You only have so many people that are selling. Only have so many sell orders there. So it was clearly showing on the ledger itself, he was cranking the purchase order, 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. You could see all these orders filling up. And literally with just 6% of the market cap, so again, market cap is 165 billion. He was putting in a buy order of 10 billion, right? Only 6% of the market cap was going in as a buy order. And the price was doing 30x. 30 to 50x, conservatively. The market cap was going 50x with just a purchase order that represented 6% of the market cap. I want your listeners to hear this. I know some people say I repeat myself, but I do, because I feel sometimes you have to repeat something 2 or 3 times to make sure they understand. Because some of the research I was doing, I'm listening to videos. Sometimes I'm rewinding the video like 20 times to listen to what
Right.
the guy is saying, to really capture and brainstorm what he's saying, right? But again, 6% of the purchase order represented 6% of what the market cap is, and it caused the price to do 30 to 50x. I think the price, to be exact, the price was going to $90, from $3 to $90. It was doing a 30x with a purchase order. So I understand, like, okay, if somebody buys 10 billion, obviously you have some sell orders too. But I think a good example here of looking at that is if you had sell pressure of 10 billion and you had buy pressure of 20 billion at the same time, representing a 10 billion positive, 10 billion more than what's being sold. I think it would be the same example of what he was showing, because he was showing a 10 billion order, basically increasing the market cap by, so it was a 30x to the market cap. So the market cap was going to like 5 trillion or it was 3, yeah, that's correct. It was 4 trillion market cap with a 10 billion purchase order.
I've even done videos on why a $10 trillion market cap is absolute peanuts. Just say it.
Peanut.
Just say it.
Yeah.
People are going to cry. Just say it.
Yeah.
Please. Please say it. They're going to cry.
My video, huh? I think they're going to cry, yeah. Yeah.
People are going to cry.
But it's, yeah. So it's called the, if you Google search XRP calculator, the XRP multiplier effect.
Yeah, market cap multiplier.
Yeah, Jake
Cleaver?
Maybe talked about that. Cleaver, I always pronounce his name wrong. I talked about that as well with somebody. And like, it's called the XRP multiplier. You'll find some examples online of that. It's not like, oh, you need to buy 175 billion of buy orders for the price to double because the market cap is 175 billion. No, not even close.
And people, a lot of times they think that the market cap is liquid cash going into the asset. That's not true either. They look at Bitcoin, $2 trillion. They think $2 trillion of cash went into Bitcoin. Absolutely not true. And it's simply it's simply just looking up what market cap is. It's the price times the circulating supply. But what dictates the price? It's the demand and the supply. It's your supply and demand dynamics.
I think right now, I'm not sure what the exact number is. So it's like, okay, so it's 2 point some trillion for Bitcoin. But if you went there and somebody sold maybe 50 billion, would probably bring Bitcoin almost to zero. And that's any crypto. I'm not crapping on Bitcoin. This is any crypto. Like if you have a market cap of 1 trillion, you don't need 1 trillion of sell orders to bring that price down.
Right.
Like the same way the multiplier works going up is the same way it works coming down as well. You know what I mean? Like I have to admit that as well. But it's not the same dynamics, I think, but it's similar. Like, because it's liquidity. It's a question of buy and sell orders and liquidity. That's it. Like,
right.
If you right now you go on Bitcoin and somebody decides to sell 200 billion worth, like that price, the market cap is going to come crashing pretty quick. Like,
moral of the story: people are going to cry.
Yep.
Let's go into another asset that people might be crying about. QNT, right? QNT is not flashy, absolute boring price action, which I absolutely love. But it is the invisible layer that the world will need. You say that Quant isn't.
You're gonna weep.
You say that Quant isn't trying to be money. That it is the middleware. It is the operating system, very much like how Microsoft was for the internet. Quant is the OS for blockchain. Talk to me about why Quant's role is so critical.
This is another 3-hour conversation right here. I would encourage everybody, definitely, at least. I would encourage everybody, if you don't mind, to watch my QNT playlist. So my YouTube channel is Apex Crypto Consulting. I have 2 playlists there. One is for XRP, Unified Ledger, and the other one is QNT. Really encourage you to watch at least the first 2 or 3 videos on QNT. I would encourage you to watch all 6 of them. They're only about 30 minutes each, 35 minutes each. Really, because the 4th and 5th one are extremely important as well, talking about all the utility being built up in these sandboxes. But you definitely want to watch at least the first 2 videos on really to understand why Quant is not, like, why it's technically positioned to be the next Microsoft. Meaning it absolutely crucial for the adoption of this 4th industrial age. So the idea is the 3rd industrial revolution, the information age that we talked about earlier, the internet, would never have happened without the Microsoft Windows operating system. Now it's questionable if it was actually Microsoft that invented. Some people say that he stole it from somebody else or whatever, but it was absolutely crucial in the sense that my understanding is that I asked the AI to explain to me the other day, like, give me a simple explanation of why Microsoft was so crucial. I wanted basic one grade, whatever, right? And technically, it's like Microsoft Windows. It's almost like how to describe what it did is almost like everybody knows that there's this new playground, this new amazing world, this internet world that you can go and do anything on, but nobody knows how to get there. So it's this amazing new world, but nobody can get there because in order to get there, you got to go through 18 wars. You got to go through like 1,000 mountains. You got to go through forest fires. You got to basically. It's impossible to get there. You cannot get there. You don't know how to get there, and even the terrain to get there, you're going to find out it's impossible to get there. So what basically Microsoft Windows did when they created the OS is literally like a big red button. You press it, and boom, you're there, right? Because your computer is numerous amounts of components in your computer. You have the hard drive and the processor and the window, and like many things, many different computer components allow your computer to come alive. So I think the operating system is what allows all your components in your computer to interoperate, to communicate with one another, and including the internet and the process and everything involved for internet. So what happens is rather than you having to spend 8,000 years trying to connect all the different components of your computer, be able to turn your computer on and then somehow access the internet world, you just press a button and boom. It creates interoperability between all of your computer systems, the computer components, and plus, I think, interfaces with the internet as well and the browser and stuff like that, which is above my pay grade. But it's you just press a button and this creates interoperability and boom, it allows you to access this internet world. But it's because of the interoperability that it creates with the operator with the your computer components and your Explorer and so on and so forth. Right. So this is what allowed the world to. Without Microsoft Windows, we would have no internet.
Right.
You never would have been able to go on the internet. Microsoft is Quant Overledger, which uses the QNT token for certain things, many things, is doing the same thing for the fourth industrial revolution. It's the same thing because right now the blockchain people are like there's such a lack of knowledge in the blockchain and crypto world because it's moving so fast. It's not everybody's fault. Honestly, if I had not found out about Quant and listened to Gilbert Verdian, the creator of Quant, if I had not listened to everything he said 100 times, being that he's one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world, he's one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world. He was responsible for the cybersecurity of the UK Treasury and the Bank of England. Yep. He worked in the Federal Reserve. Okay, so he understands how these commercial banks and central banks and these fintechs and these massive corporations cannot shut down their systems. These systems cannot shut down. So he understood what we need, and he also understood the architecture of the original internet. He wrote a paper 20 years ago explaining how the internet was not secure. The internet was not made for moving money. He wrote this paper 20 years ago. Okay, so he knew, being one of the top cybersecurity experts in the world, because the whole cybersecurity, his whole industry is built on the fact that the internet was never made to move money. It's not secure. He never expected the internet to be what it is today, and that created a lot of vulnerabilities, and it's not completely secure, and that's where the cybersecurity industry came from. It's the security internet, like all these patches and security updates and all that stuff. This is what he does, and he's one of the top of the world. So he knew that in order to have blockchain adoption, fully blockchain adoption, you had to put the same things in place that had been put for the original internet. Like you had to follow the same architecture to a certain degree. Like you had to explain that. No, I'm not explaining correctly. Let me explain to you why Quant is just crucial. Why we cannot have real blockchain adoption, the full adoption and full utility of blockchain without Quant. So right now, all of the different industries in the world that we have, whether you're talking healthcare, global trade, payments, financial system, energy grids, every sector you can think of. Can you think of many? Because I'm only thinking of 4 or 5 off the top of my head. I always blank out when I try to think about the industry sectors. Can you name a few that I'm not thinking of? You have healthcare, you have supply chain management.
E-commerce, yep. Micropayments. You were talking every industry of every industry. Construction, every doesn't
industry.
Matter.
Yeah, construction, accounting, everything. Every industry. The only way that you can bring these to blockchain, all of these industries are operating on what we call legacy systems. They're all using hardware, software, different applications. Everything they're using is what we call legacy systems. They're not compatible with blockchain. Okay, they're not compatible with blockchain, and he understood that. So the same problem we had with the computer, where all the components couldn't connect and interoperate with each other. The existing world we have right now is all trapped in legacy systems, and it cannot interoperate. It cannot connect seamlessly and speak the same language of blockchain. And not only can it not, it's not compatible with blockchain, it's also certainly cannot connect to multiple blockchains at the same time and benefit from all the blockchains. So right now they might be connecting like a little application or something into Ethereum. That's one blockchain. And when they try to do cross-chain, that's why you see all these hacks. Because the cross-chain that they're doing prior to Quant is not secure. There's some vulnerabilities there. That's why you're seeing all these $1 billion, $2 billion, $6 billion hacks, because the cross-chain that they're doing, the type of cross-chain we're doing is not secure. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so what Quant did is he created an overledger, which is an operating system, and allows any legacy systems that exist to connect to blockchain seamlessly and connect to multiple blockchains at the same time. And what this does is that now you can pick the best features of each blockchain and build what is called a multi-chain application. So now you're benefiting from all the blockchains.
Yep.
Yeah. Now you can benefit from all the blockchains. So if you like XRP for settlement, and you like Ethereum for the smart contract, and you like Solana for something else, and you really like Sui for something else, and you like the Energy Web Token blockchain for something else, you can pick the best features of each blockchain and build a multi-chain application for whatever industry or whatever type of solution that you're trying to build. So now you're benefiting from all the blockchains. So an example of this is years ago when the internet started, if somebody said, if your internet provider told you, hey, you can have internet with us, but you got to choose one internet website. Like, which one do you want? Well, what do you mean I can only have one website? Well, like, choose the website you want, and in 6 months to a year from now, if you want another one, we'll switch you over then. We'll try to switch you over. The internet never would have flourished. Come on. The internet became what it became because we had access to all the websites. We had all these choices. And it's the same thing. So he explains how these central banks cannot shut off their systems for 9 months to integrate into one blockchain like Ethereum, and then if something happens with that blockchain where the transactions slow down or gets too expensive, they have to somehow switch over. These are what you call national critical infrastructure. These systems cannot shut down. The nation of the world, the nation runs on this system. You cannot shut it down because there was an issue with the blockchain and we got to try to switch over and spend another 3 months trying to integrate our backend in a new blockchain. So that's the thing. Like Quant allows you to benefit from all the blockchains and pick the best features of each one. And it also allows all these legacy systems that exist, which is the existing world. It allows it to be compatible with blockchain, so that we can merge the old world, the third industrial revolution. We can now move it into the fourth industrial revolution. The same way that the third industrial revolution moved on to the second industrial revolution, moved on to the third industrial revolution via Microsoft Windows and the internet. So now Quant is that Microsoft Windows, and all the blockchains are technically the internet world, the new internet world. Okay, so I'll tell you. So I'll give you an example of what level they're operating. Quant, Gilbert Verdian approached the IETF 3 years ago. So that's the Internet Engineering Task Force, and MIT. They are responsible for everything for the internet the last 30 years. Every standard, every development and standardization of every internet protocol we have in the last 30 years is because of the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, and MIT. We would not have the internet today if it wasn't for the IETF and MIT. So Gilbert Verdian approached them like 3 years ago. He says, hey, listen, we need to create a new standard. We need to create a new protocol, a new standard for digital assets to be able to move seamlessly. We need to create a new standard to move digital assets from one network to another. And they said, yes, of course, because he's the GOAT. And they said, okay, let's do it. And originally they called it ODAP, which was called the Open Digital Asset Protocol. But now it's called SAP. It's called the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. Secure Asset Transfer Protocol, SATP. So what Quant is doing, along with the IETF, and keep in mind, this is the organization responsible for the internet we have today. Like, if you look at the members of the IETF, it's literally all the most powerful corporations in the world. IBM, Microsoft, the intelligence agencies. I mean, on and on. Google, like Accenture, like they're all there. They're all represented in numerous intelligence agencies as well, putting their input on at the IETF to advance the internet. But here we have Quant chosen the IETF saying, yeah, you're right, let's do this. And one of the people at Quant is the one who actually, one of the guys at Quant, I think is it Martin Hargreaves or another one, he actually wrote the SCT, the first draft of the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. So they're literally chairing, Quant is literally chairing this new Secure Asset Transfer Protocol that is technically re-architecturing the internet. So what it does is they're literally doing a new protocol, a standardized protocol for when assets want to move from one network to another. And a lot of the Quant community are confusing the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol with the Interledger Protocol. Because they think it replaces XRP, but they're not realizing, like, no, the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol has a different purpose than the Interledger Protocol.
Simply just because they hear that word interoperability, some people also think that Chainlink and Quant as well.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's not even the same.
Right.
Yeah. So your asset transfer protocol means that you want to move one asset from one network to another that it can reside. So let's say Citibank has a token. And they want to send Citibank token to JP Morgan, and JP Morgan network, JP Morgan is okay to hold Citibank token. Yeah, we'll take it, we'll hold it. Now this standardized protocol allows network A, which is Citibank, to send the Citi token to JP Morgan network, and it can reside on the JP network. But it's done through the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. Okay, so the Interledger Protocol is different because the Interledger Protocol is when you want to exchange an asset. And this is where 99% of the QNT community have it wrong, and where 99% of the XRP community as well didn't understand what, like, the SATP. Because very few people have researched both. Very few people are crazy enough to spend the time I spent. So I'm not taking credit. I'm crazy for spending the time I spent researching it. But so there's a big misconception there. But what I mean is, so imagine, so Quant is literally helping to re-architecture the internet. And it's creating an overlaying the internet. It's Quant's an overledger. So they're literally overlaying the internet technically, so now that move, like, so it's kind of like digital assets now can move kind of separately. They're separating the two layers. So now there's a secure layer for moving digital assets from one network to the other, and then you kind of have, I think, like the other layer, which is the internet basic information layer. So there's two internets being built right now. Is the Internet of Value, which is the XRP ledger, and there's the Internet of Trust, like I was saying, which is Quant. Okay, so I'll give you one example of one partner of Quant. This is one partner. All right? One partner, Oracle. Oracle has 330,000 or 430,000? We'll go with the lower number to be conservative. It has 340,000 corporate clients, Oracle. It's made public 3 years ago that they're using Quant as their true interoperability solution so that they can bring blockchain solutions to all of their clients. They have 300, we'll say 340, but it might be 430. They have 340,000 corporate clients, and out of those, I think 50,000 of their clients have a market cap of over 1 billion or have more than 1 billion in revenue per year. And one client alone, we'll look at the national defense in the US, one client alone will spend $2, $3, $4, $5 billion per year with Oracle. One client. They have 430,000 clients. And every use cases, every solution that Oracle is going to bring to their 430,000 client has to use QNT. You cannot use an MDAP, a multi-chain application, or Quant Overledger without somehow using the XRP token. Without using the QNT token. The Quant Overledger, which is the operating system, cannot function without the QNT token being used. That's one client. So one client of Quant, Oracle, has 430,000 clients. 340,000 to be conservative, because it's either 340 or 430, I can't remember. 340,000 corporations that they supply, like everything involved in IT and anything technology, right? So, and one of those clients, so one out of the 340,000 clients, spends billions and billions of dollars per year. Now, keep in mind, that's one client of Quant. I could tell you about like 10 clients they have like that. And they were also chosen by the Regulated Liability Network. So I'll give you an example of Project Rosalind. Project Rosalind is one of the projects under the BIS, where the BIS, which is the central banks for all central banks, has confirmed that Quant was the interoperability solution and the underlying infrastructure for Project Rosalind. Okay, now this is one project of the Innovation Hub. There's 43 projects on the Innovation Hub. This is one. And we know that Quant was chosen to be the interoperability and infrastructure layer for this project. Now let's look at Project Rosalind. Project Rosalind involved the first phase. There's many phases. This is just first phase. Involved the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, numerous massive commercial banks, and like 40 fintechs, including Amazon, WorldPay, and on and on and on. Massive, massive central banks, massive commercial banks, and numerous fintechs, all using Quant to build multi-chain applications. And they're using Quant to build multi-chain applications to bring use cases to this new money, to bring use cases, because governments are building CBDCs, but they want people to use it. So in order for people to use it, they need to have use cases. So Project Rosalind, like I said, all these massive, massive fintechs and corporations, massive, phase one, this is just phase one, again, this is just one project out of all the different innovation projects that we know Quant has to be chosen for many of them because it's the same solution they need. So all building multi-chain applications using Quant so that they can bring use cases and utility use cases and demand for these new CBDCs that are going to be launching in the next year, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But this Project Rosalind is one project. Again, the Innovation Hub has 43 of them. I'm not saying that they're all involving Quant, but I can tell you that Quant was chosen by the central banks for all central banks to be the true interoperability solution because it's the only way that the whole private sector that's working with the central bankers, it's the only way they can properly connect the blockchain and build what are called multi-chain applications and take advantage of this. So, and Quant admits that they were the infrastructure. They say it right on their website, and BIS admits it too, that they were the underlying infrastructure for Project Rosalind. And also Quant is allowing the programmability of money. They made it public. They're allowing programmability of money. They're allowing, even citizens are going to be able to inject logic. You're going to be able, like right now you can go technically, well, it's not there yet because it hasn't, like all the banks haven't adopted it, but with the programmability of money via Quant, you can now program your bank account.
Yep, pay,
you
script
can say,
pay.
Okay, yeah, script pay.
Yep.
If I have $500 left at the first of the month, send $100 to my daughter, invest $100 in Google, invest $100 in XRP, and the other $200, I don't know, put that in a stock somewhere or whatever. You can program your account. Or on the 14, if I have this much or this, then do this and this. If this, like you basically injecting logic in money. It's called programmability. Only Quant does that. So now all the commercial banks and you're going to be able to program money, including tokens. You're going to be able to technically program it. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a general idea of what Quant is. But and I want to add, Quant is 1,800 times cheaper than Bitcoin right now.
Also, 33% less of the supply, 14.8 million coins versus your 21 million.
Exactly.
And seems like the amount of volume, the TAM that can flow in through it, we're talking quadrillions of dollars.
It's insane. Like in order for the secure asset transfer protocol that they're standardizing, now keep in mind the secure asset transfer protocol is being standardized at an internet level. This is a new internet protocol that's being laid over the internet we have today.
Yeah.
And when a network wants to send money to another network via the secure asset transfer protocol, it can only send it through a gateway. And the only way that you can host a gateway right now is with your QNT token.
Yeah, it's a toll booth.
You host the gateway. You become the toll booth. people are sleeping.
Yep.
People are gonna cry.
Yep. It's the highway, and there you are. You're the toll booth, and everything that wants to flow through you. I mean, it really is probably the most disruptive technology I mean, blockchain. The early stages of blockchain, it's so fragmented. Everything's operating in silos, and Quant is truly offering that interoperability for it to actually become on the same level that we have with the internet today. I'd like to
I
jump.
just want to add to hope.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just want to add one more thing. When you have to host a gateway, anytime you want to connect any, and by the way, they're coming up in the next few months. They're gonna be releasing more stuff here.
Staking,
The
hopefully.
Yeah, so the Fusion launch is going to be called Bring Your Own Node and Bring Your Own Connectors. So very shortly here, maybe 2, 3, 4 months, maybe 4 months at the max, they have what's called Bring Your Own Connector. Anybody, as long as they're following the actual, as long as they're following the guidelines or the specifications outlined by Quant, you can connect any blockchain. You connect any blockchain. You want to connect any blockchain, you can do it. And you can connect any type of legacy system as well. So anybody can connect anything to Quant Overledger. Any blockchain, any system, any software, any data, anything you can connect. It's called Bring Your Own Connector. So this is what called the Internet of Trust. We're going to be able to connect anything to any blockchain. Any to any. We can all participate.
One of the great things about Fusion, and ultimately up until now, there was no means to have that connectivity between the public and the private chains. So Quant's Fusion is also tapping into public chains and private chains. It allows you to get the liquidity out of the public chains, but also benefit from the security of the private ledgers, right? Public and private ledgers, guys.
Yeah.
You get the benefits from both liquidity as well as the security and the security, to be discreet about it.
And allowing all the institutions that exist today, mainstream, all the institutions, the big institutions, TradFi, to literally start really tapping into DeFi.
Yep.
It's taking the big money, the real money, and now bringing that to blockchain and DeFi. The real money, not the retailer money like me. The real money.
Let's get into the question everybody wants to know. You've said that Quant could become one of the most explosive tokens in history. Walk me through this thesis. I know you don't want to say it, but please, ballpark range. What are you thinking? Of course, Bitcoin prices. I honestly think that it's possible it could touch $1 million. But what is the thesis? Most explosive token in history. What is it?
Okay, so non-financial advice. I know I said it. I'm gonna say it again. Non-financial advice. Non-financial advisor. Just for entertainment purposes only. You get all the other zero. There's no guarantees here. But Quant right now is positioned to be the Microsoft Windows. They really are. If you do your research, they're positioned to be the next Microsoft Windows of the fourth industrial age, fourth industrial revolution. And there is less supply than Bitcoin. So if they are successful, which I believe they're positioned to be right now, no guarantees, but if they are successful, which it seems they're positioned to be right now, to be the next operating system, to capture even just 50% of the market cap of this next thing, even just 20%. So I'll tell you why I disagree when people say like, oh my goodness, Quant would never hit 100,000. I'm not saying it will hit it next year, okay? But the idea that, okay, so let's say they're successful, they are the true operating system for this next industrial revolution. Everybody has to go through it in order to build multi-chain applications. Everything, CBDCs are built on it. Use cases for CBDCs are built through it. Everything. The idea that it cannot hit 100,000 is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, it's not math. Because when people say, "Oh, it'll never happen," what do you mean? It already happened. Bitcoin hit over 100,000, and it has more supply than Quant. So how can you say that something that already happened cannot happen? This is not logic. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just being real with you. It's not logic to say that something that has already happened cannot happen. Bitcoin has more supply than Quant. Like, if you put Quant at Bitcoin's market cap, Quant would be about $160,000, having Bitcoin's market cap. And if Quant is successful, there's a way more demand for Quant. And we're talking maybe 6 years, 7 years, maybe 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying tomorrow morning.
Yes.
But when Bitcoin was $100, nobody thought it would ever hit 100,000. I mean, come on. it was like $10. People were like, oh my goodness, this was magic internet money. Then it went to $100. Like, oh my goodness, this is crap. It went down back to, let's say, $12, 15, went down, and then boom, took off to 1,000, and then 4,000, then came back down, then took off to 20,000, came back down, and took off to 60,000. Like, nobody expected to hit 100,000. It seems ridiculous when it's $100 or $10, but when it gets there, it doesn't seem so ridiculous, does it? So my point is, Bitcoin has more supply than quant, which means that quant with the same market cap as Bitcoin, the same demand, would be 160,000 for quant eventually, if it has the same demand. Bitcoin is mainly used as a store of value. I'm not saying it's not a good use case. It is seen as a good use case for store of value. You know, most people would rather hold Bitcoin than hold fiat currencies because governments are printing it out of control. They're devaluating currencies. So it's a store of value in that way. So something that has a store of value as the main use case, I'm not saying that you can't do peer-to-peer with it. Okay, so don't start crashing blockchain police messaging saying, you stupid idiot. So yeah, I'm not saying it can't do peer-to-peer a bit. I'm not saying it's not, can't use Bitcoin. We're using it obviously, and it has its thing. But if quant gets just the demand that Bitcoin has, that puts quant at 160,000. And to me, I think quant has 1,000 times more use cases with time than Bitcoin, because with quant there's unlimited use cases, because you're allowing any system that exists, software, databases, anything that exists, to connect to any blockchain. And this includes AI, by the way. This is interoperability with AI as well. So you're allowing anything that exists today, any software, like I said, to connect to any blockchain and build, like, whatever you can think of, you can build. You just don't know what you can build with it right now because there's so many options. You can pick the best features of every blockchain, and there's like 1 million blockchains right now. So what can you build? What kind of solution? It's unlimited.
Right.
It's unlimited, right? So the use cases for quant eventually, compared to Bitcoin, in my opinion, is at least 100-fold, if not 1,000-fold.
I think it's way more than that, and it's liquid too. I mean, I think XRP, XLM, I think that the total addressable market, the theoretical demand that can actually flow through these assets, is hundreds of trillions, if not quadrillions. I mean, quant, right? Maybe by 2030, CBDCs, 100 trillion, tokenized assets, 400 trillion at some point in the future. FX, $2-3 quadrillion. You got insurance, another 7 trillion. Treasury management, 50 trillion. Private markets, 20 trillion. KYC compliance, another trillion. Stablecoin gateways, 30 trillion. I mean, come on, add it up. We're looking at quadrillions of dollars that is flowing into that token.
Yeah, indirectly. Yeah, and what's indirectly.
Yes.
What's crazy is that it's all being tokenized. It's a fact that it's all being tokenized. It's all going on a blockchain, and you know what really blew me away when I started to looking into utility tokens is that you now have a token that captures the utility of a network. So it like
the real value. The real value
like,
of the network, not the stock that represents the company, that represents the profit that they've made. You're talking about the actual value of the company.
Yeah, the utility. Yeah, so for example, a way to say this is, so with stocks in general, what moves the price is speculation. People think that the company's going to do well, or they come up with their numbers, they show they had a good year, and they have a good projection, whatever. People buy it, called speculation, price goes up. People think it's not going to do well, they sell, it goes down, whatever. But the main driver, in my understanding, with stocks, most commodities or stocks anyways, it's what we call speculation. People speculate it's going to do well, and the company does well, and they keep buying stuff. But with crypto, some crypto, especially if they have utility, you have two factors. You have speculation, but you also have utility. Bang. And what we mean by utility is that, let's say Facebook years ago was built on blockchain. Let's say we had blockchain at the time, and Facebook was built on blockchain. So what they could have done is going to say, okay, we're going to build Facebook on blockchain here, and we're going to create this protocol, and we're going to create 20 million tokens, and we're going to set it hard-coded that you can't create any more tokens. And anytime anybody does anything on Facebook, the network is going, this social media platform network is going to have to use the token. Excuse me for one second.
He is cooking. He's cooking.
Sorry about that. Okay. So imagine Facebook was built on a token, on a blockchain, and they had made a rule where there was 20 million tokens, and you had to use a token. So if you invite a friend request, it's one token. If you send a message, it's a quarter of a token. If you send a video, it's half a token. If you like a picture, maybe it's just 1/10 of a token. But the Facebook network would not be able to function without using the token. Okay, so that's what we mean by capturing the utility of a network. You're forcing the utility and the usefulness of the network to use the token. You're forcing it to use the token, so you're taking all of the value and the utility of the network and you're driving it into the token, so that you're forcing the token to capture the value of the network. And I would say 98% of people in even blockchain don't even think about that. I've never heard anybody else explain that but me. I'm not saying nobody's thinking about it, but I've never heard anybody else explain that, ever. You're literally, it's the first time, because of tokenization and blockchain, it's the first time that we can capture the utility of a network. The example that I gave you of Facebook. Now that's what we're doing. Like, we're creating, like, so you could do that with YouTube, let's say. You could have done that with YouTube. If blockchain existed, you could have done that with Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. And so it captures the utility. So I'm saying that because of what you said. You were explaining how Quant is going to capture the value. That's what I mean. Like, you're with Quant, you're literally creating one of the biggest networks possibly that ever existed, because it's the network of networks. But you're forcing the network. You're putting an instrument in there that's literally forcing the token to capture the value of everything that's going to happen in this network of networks. And it's the same thing like the Internet of Value, XRP. You're forcing the XRP token to capture the value of this new internet, capturing the utility. And so this is why, to me, and I may be wrong, but that's why the potential is you're going to have sell pressure, because people need to sell. People are going to take profits. But the potential demand on some of these utility tokens is absolutely outrageous. It's insane. And I want to explain one thing too, guys, is like the price now doesn't reflect the real utility. Because if you look at Amazon, I don't know if you've seen Jeff Bezos talk about the history of Amazon.
Yes.
He said, while Amazon was growing like crazy, he says, we're looking at the numbers, it says our sales were increasing, our acquisition of client was increasing like crazy, our returns was way down, we're having less returns, like every metric we were looking at was just booming, unreal. And at the same time, the price of the stock was going down. The price went from like $100 to $10, while everything about the company was just exploding in a positive way. The stock was actually going down. And he said, the stock is not the company is not the stock. And that's what I mean. Like, what's happening with Quant and XRP and some of these utility tokens right now, the value, the price is not reflecting the real value of these networks that are being built. And these use cases that are going to be being built right now on top of these networks.
I say it all the time. The impatient always seem to find a way to give their money to the patient ones. And that exact video of Jeff Bezos describing it probably had one of the biggest impacts on my strategy to being a long-term investor. Mm-hmm. Looking at the partnerships, looking at the pilots, looking at the integration, the adoption, regardless of the short-term price action. Looking at how the actual network is growing. If you could sit there and maybe have that foresight of what 5 to 10 years could be, regardless of the short-term price action, that's, I think, how you become a successful investor. You look at some of the best investors in the world. They're sitting on assets for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I think that we're at a point where people are trying to measure the success of a crypto by its price. And we don't do that as you and me obviously are coming about it. We measure the success of a project by its pilots, by its partnerships, by its adoption, by its integration with traditional finance. This is how you find the winners of crypto, and regulations are going to ultimately be what shifts it from that speculative market into that utility market. So many people have this microwave mentality, this Minute Maid mentality. When's the Lambo? Instead of just sitting there and saying, I am blessed to have this opportunity where I could accumulate and own the actual infrastructure of which JP Morgan Chase is going to use, Citibank is going to use, HSBC. We're at a certain point where retail front ran institutional enterprise and government adoption. And I don't think people are grateful enough to be at a certain point in time where the little fish were able to get into these assets before the big fish. It's the only time in history that we have been able to have this opportunity.
Amen. Amen. It's the first time in history because if you look at hedge funds and these big institutions, like they can't, like if you have a hedge fund manager, for example, he's managing, let's say, $50 billion. He can't say to everybody that he's managing money to, hey, don't worry, I'm going to buy some crypto and I'm going to put it in a digital wallet. I'm going to store it in my suitcase. Don't worry.
Yep.
They didn't have the regulation and they didn't have the technology to be able to do it. Like you said, and like you hit the nail on the head so much there. Like it's the first time that we can ever invest in something like this before the big money. And not only that, it's the first time that we can know about it. Because 30 years ago, you never would have known about this because you didn't have the internet to find out about it.
Right.
This is insane. And what really breaks my heart and really pisses me off, is we have and it's not all their fault because some of them, a lot of people are preaching these things because they don't know better. It's a lack of knowledge. But you have some very influential people that are coming from real estate and different industries, maybe marketing. They made millions and millions of dollars, almost billions of dollars. And they're telling everybody, and these are influential people, they're respected for the industries they came from and their image, right? They're smart, they're business people, but they're telling people, like, you should only look at Bitcoin. Like, everything else is distraction, just focus on Bitcoin. When Bitcoin is literally 2,000 times more expensive. You have to look at the market cap, guys. 2,000 times more expensive than a project like Quant. Right? And it'll probably peak maybe 200, 300,000. I'm not sure. But and you have people literally saying like only focus on Bitcoin. And I'm okay. Like many of them are saying that because it's a lack of knowledge, right? We've been in this for years, so we know. But so I know I forgive them. But it just breaks my heart. It's just so crazy because here we have the greatest opportunity in history. And people are saying, look at Bitcoin when we have projects like XDC, HBAR, Quant, XLM, like other projects too, like projects in AI. And I mean, there's many other projects that you can probably do better than Bitcoin. Like there's probably 100 of them like that you're going to do better. And also I want to add one thing too. The first technology was never the best technology. Yep. In any industry.
LimeWire, right? AOL, you're looking at it. Sure.
They all disappeared. Netscape, gone, AOL, gone. The first internet companies didn't even survive. I'm not saying Bitcoin won't survive, but mark my words. In 5 to 10 years from now, when the industry gets more mature and people realize like, okay, this is a store of value. It's already like 5 trillion, 10 trillion or whatever. And now we have utility. Once it matures, like first of all, like my bottom line is the first invention never even survived.
Right.
First websites, the first internet companies, AOL, it didn't survive. The first airplane was not the best airplane. The first microwave, like the first of everything, the first car, was not the best car. The first airplane was not the best airplane. Right. The first microwave, like the first TV, the first VCR, the first DVD player, it was not the best, and they didn't survive. So why people are thinking that Bitcoin is the only and best one? Logically, historically, it does not make sense.
Do you believe that your XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, QNT, Chainlink, right, utility assets, will they flip Bitcoin at some point? Will Bitcoin remain the number one coin forever?
No, some of them have to flip. I think, for me, in my opinion, they absolutely have to flip it. There's no way, because of the utility. And also, people are going to look to see where profit can be made. Like, right now, this is completely new. People were told by mainstream media Bitcoin was crap. Now they're being told by mainstream media is the only token that you should look into. Bitcoin, Ethereum is the only thing you should look into. So they're just going by what they're being told, right? They don't understand anything about market cap, use cases, charts. They don't understand any of that, which is, I'm not putting them down for it. I'm just saying it's the fact. The retailers are coming in right now. 90% of retail are coming in blind. They're looking at Bitcoin because that's what they're being told to look into, right? But eventually, like in 5 years from now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, when you look at the utility of other projects ramping up like crazy, insane, plus the fact that people are gonna get, be more knowledgeable about this. And they're going to realize, okay, Bitcoin is maybe, 10 trillion. It's like, it's not moving. Like, again, people are going to, in 10 years from now, it's not going to be the same knowledge that we have today.
Right.
And it's not going to be the same utility, and it's not going to have the same adoption and everything. To me, it is absolutely impossible that Bitcoin can still be first in 5, 10 years from now.
Yeah, when you're
There's
looking
no
at
possibility.
when you're looking at a 50, 70, $100 trillion total crypto market cap, I don't sit there and think that Bitcoin is still going to have a 50, 60% market cap dominance. That the institutions, the governments, the enterprises are going to be the ones that'll bring this market from 4 trillion to 20 trillion, 50 trillion to 100 trillion. Once institutional money comes in, and we can already see, look at the breadcrumbs, we can already see the networks that they're looking, they're testing, they're running pilots, they want to integrate in, the ones that they've already integrated in. We could see all of the breadcrumbs of the chains that they are integrating in, the utility assets. When this market does go to 50, 70, 100 trillion in due time, I don't think Bitcoin's going to have 50, 60% market cap dominance. I think at that point, you're going to see a $1 trillion market cap for XRP or XLM or QNT, maybe even multitudes of more. It's going to be a multi-chain future, and they're all going to complement themselves in many ways. I don't think Bitcoin's going to have that 50, 60% market cap dominance once mass institutional adoption's there.
Oh, it can't. It can't with time. How much did you see for XRP, for example?
A one,
Example of market cap?
a one. I said 1 trillion. Very conservative.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've even done a video on a $10 trillion market cap and why that's peanuts. But yeah, just for argument's sake, because there's people that say, oh, $1 trillion, no way. It's it very conservatively, all your utility assets will get
Yeah,
to
let
that.
me back you up on that. So what people need to understand is, okay, so we know XRP is going to bridge the money for the Bank of England. And if you do your research, not you, but I mean people in general, it's a way of saying
Yep.
people do their research on XRP, they know that FedNow is literally built on the XRP ledger. FedNow is the modernization of the payment system in the US, and it's using the XRP ledger. That's a fact, okay? They were chosen by the Faster Payment Task Force years ago. Ripple was a chosen company to modernize the system. It's a long story, very deep rabbit hole, but if you do your research, you come to the conclusion that FedNow runs on Ripple. So what people don't realize here, okay, when people say that XRP cannot go to 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 100 trillion, and they can't flip Bitcoin, well, let me tell you something, and I would like to know how you're going to argue against this one. The Bank of England is one central bank out of 170 central banks. There's 170 to 180 central banks in the world. We know that the Bank of England is a paid customer of Ripple for over 6 years now. We know Bank of England will settle with XRP. Same for the Federal Reserve and same for the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and majority of central banks, all central banks. We know they're going to settle cross-border through XRP. Now, the Bank of England, the Bank of England, so let's think about the market cap of Bitcoin. Okay, so you know how much the volume of Bitcoin right now and the market cap of Bitcoin. The Bank of England is one central bank out of 180 central banks that will be using XRP, and it does more volume in one day than all of the Bitcoin does. It does more volume in one day, the Bank of England, than Bitcoin does in a whole year.
Yep.
And this is one central bank. There's 170 to 180 central banks in the world. Not all big like the Bank of England, don't get me wrong.
Say that
But,
one more time.
Okay, I'll say it 5 more times.
Yep.
The Bank of England does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year. And it's going to use XRP to settle transactions. And their CBDC is being built on the CBDC, the private CBDC platform that Ripple has that allows central banks to build CBDCs on the XRP ledger. These are private CBDC ledgers that they're using to build CBDCs, and when it comes to settling cross-border, they have to use the XRP public ledger. They have to touch the public ledger. And the Bank of England does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year. And this is one central bank. So don't tell me that XRP can't go to $50. If you're saying it can't, okay, you don't know the facts. You haven't done your research. And it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. Probably the nicest person and most amazing person in the world. But when it comes to XRP, if you think XRP can't hit $10 or $50, you have not done your research.
This is why I brought him on.
And that's fun.
This is exactly why I brought him on.
Well, facts are facts, right? It's just that I can't. Again, I'm not writing in stone that's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not writing in stone that's going to happen. But to say that it can't is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
it just can't.
And they can never tell you why unless they say market cap would be too high. But then again, you're already exposing to me, one, you don't understand what market cap is, and two, you don't understand the utility asset that you're pretending to understand. It's a market cap too high is one of the dumbest arguments I've ever heard, and I've never heard of another argument as to why it couldn't go to that. Besides that,
Yeah, if it's based on volume
Yes.
and demand, right? Like Bitcoin, I know it's not all based on volume because it has to do with the order books and the liquidity and everything like that. But I mean, the fact that the Bank of England will use XRP for settlement and it does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year, and Bitcoin's at 2 trillion, why can't XRP go to 2 trillion market cap? I mean, come on. It's just mad is mad.
let me
Like,
tell
if
you.
you tell me that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, if you think about the fact that, and it's Gilbert Verdian, the CEO of Quant, that said that. He said, like, right now, like, this is peanuts. Like, if you look at the blockchain industry, if you look at crypto, like, the volume, it's peanuts. He says the Bank of England does more volume in one day than Bitcoin does in a whole year. It's peanuts. So, like, if that's the case, and Bitcoin is at 2 trillion market cap or whatever, and you say that XRP can't go to 10 trillion or 2 trillion or whatever. Again, this is one central banks out of 170 central banks, my friend. This is not including the DTCC. We know they're working with Ripple that settles 3.5 quadrillion per year. And SWIFT that does 9 trillion per day, or it's 5 to 7 trillion, sorry, per day. And so it's just you're like, it's, if you're telling me it can't reach $20 or $50, you're telling me that 2 plus 2 is not 4. Telling
Jesse,
me that 1 plus 1 is not 2.
you're not bullish enough. You're not bullish enough.
I agree. No,
Let me tie you back into QNT. I got just a few more with QNT. You have hinted that Quant is quietly being used with global sandbox programs, and the BIS keeps stress testing interoperability for central bank digital currencies. Isn't that basically what Quant's Overledger's role is?
Yeah, the Quant is any to any, so it allows interoperability between all the blockchains, all the legacy systems. Like, Quant will allow, to pick this chain for the smart contract, and then this chain for something else, and then the XRP ledger for settlement. Right? It's an overlay. So, like, when you want to use that unified ledger, which is the XRP ledger, to settle that transaction, that's going to be that one of the blockchain that's being used within your multi-chain application that you've built using Quant. So Quant allows, like I said, the whole world to build multi-chain applications and bring numerous use cases to CBDCs.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the underlying layer is the central bank money. Unfortunately, it's the sovereign government money. It's crap, and they're printing tons of it, and it's losing its value. It's losing its purchasing power. That's why we see inflation. They want you to believe that, the prices of everything is going up because it's this country or it's this person here that's doing that. It's this president or... No. They're printing too much money. They're printing money. They're devaluing the currency.
Yep.
Therefore, when you buy something, you need to put more of those dollars to buy that same thing. So if you want to buy a house, you need to pay more of your dollars because your dollar lost its purchasing power. It lost its value because they put too much of it in circulation.
Right.
So because people think like, I go to a restaurant now and wow, it's $30 instead of $15. It's all because of Putin. No. Stop listening to mainstream media, first of all, okay? All been controlled for like 80 years. Okay, it's not Putin's fault that your money's worthless. Okay, and it's not Trump's fault either. I'm sorry for, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate here, but I'm just saying it's because they're printing too much money. I know I probably lost 20%.
Very simple.
But I'm just being honest. Like,
Very
it's
simple.
not this guy's fault or that guy's fault. It's they're printing too much money. So when you buy something, like I said, you need to pay more of those dollars because your currency lost its purchasing power. It lost its value. So they're saying, hey, listen, you got to give me more of those dollars because it's not worth what it used to be.
Right.
And that's the problem. So where the heck was I going with that?
Well, it's the endless cycle. I believe it was the president of Ecuador came and spoke about what the Federal Reserve is doing. They're printing endless amounts of money, and then they're buying the treasuries with the money, and it just ends up being this giant entire circle that devalues your dollar, and before you realize it, you're sitting there like, I can't afford nothing.
Exactly, but I don't know why. What the heck was I saying when I went there? What the heck was I saying?
We were talking about global sandboxes as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I want to say something about those sandboxes. That's really, really important. So yeah, so Quant is what? Yeah, because I was saying that the fiat currency, sovereign currency. Sovereign means government currency, so national currencies, right? The U.S. dollar, the euro, the Canadian dollar, the peso, whatever. So that's unfortunately, the underlying layer of money. It's like the trunk of the tree. Everything else, everything we do has to use that money one way or another. And so, quant is what's going to be used to build all these use cases for this money. But because quant is allowing you to, like I said, pick the best features of each blockchain and build MDApps and bring all these sorts of different use cases, right? So, what the heck was I saying? So I want to talk about the sandboxes because you brought a really good point here. So what people don't realize, I created one of my videos on my playlist on YouTube talks about these sandboxes. And what's happening right now is Quant's product allows central banks, commercial banks, and the biggest fintech companies in the world to build multi-chain applications in a sandbox environment, fully tested in like a live environment, almost like it's live, fully tested rigorously, as if it's live, before going live.
Without risking real money.
Exactly. And all of these corporations, central banks, commercial banks, fintechs that are building on Quant right now, okay, building hundreds of use cases for these CBDCs, don't have to buy the Quant license yet. They only have to buy the Quant license when Quant goes live. And there's these massive sandboxes. If you guys watch my sandbox video, I think it's the 4th or 5th one on my YouTube playlist, the Quant playlist, YouTube, you'll see the sizes of these sandbox, the UK sandbox, the Roslyn sandbox, the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. Same for the Secure Asset Transfer Protocol. LeChain project, any massive project that Quant has, including all these ridiculously massive sandboxes, they don't have to use the token yet until they go live.
So I had made a video on the Quant Sandbox,
Holy.
and we were talking about the fees, and then you had corrected me, stating that it's actually indicated specifically to each partner's volume.
So the license and
Yes.
this for big corporations is going to be private. I think Gilbert Vernier made it pretty clear that the deals they do with certain clients, it's not public because he said that's just how it is. Like with IBM doesn't want Microsoft to know how much they're paying for a Quant license to do business with Quant. It's just how the way the corporate world works, right? So he explained that because people were like, why don't you make it public how much these corporations are going to pay? Well, it's just not like that. It doesn't work like that in corporate world. Like it's just, this is private stuff. But if you look at their utility token, like Quant was very clear that, first of all, you cannot do any transaction on Quant without using QNT. You have to pay a certain fee. You need to use QNT to validate the transaction. But when you're sending a transaction over Quant, you need QNT. And the amount of QNT that you're going to need is going to depend on the size of the transaction. That's the first thing. The second thing is, like you said, how much these corporations are going to pay for these licenses to use Quant depends on the amount of users, the amount of employees, the amount of volume, the type of transactions, and the type of applications, for example. And that's going to determine how much they're going to pay for these licenses. And my understanding from Quant, Gilbert Verdian said, like, he used to work for a company, and I think they were paying $200 million per year for a license. Or maybe it was not per year, but I think it was per year. Like, when you're buying software licenses and like these massive licenses to like operate a system like the real-time gross settlement system, which is the infrastructure for a nation, these licenses are not cheap. Like, you pay a lot of money if like when IBM or these companies like literally set up the RTGS for a nation, like it's not. So anyway, so like these licenses are not going to be cheap. Like some of these licenses, I'm thinking some will pay 50, 100, maybe 200, and just speculation based on what I heard Gilbert say, but I think some of them, the biggest ones, they might pay $100 million per year, 50 million or 2 million or maybe 200 million. I don't know, because I think that they're going to build an application and they're going to settle all the value for the Bank of England, let's say. Like, that license is not, I'll tell you, that license is not going to be 100,000.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same for
a
medium enterprise, small medium enterprise.
No, like IBM, Microsoft, because again, it's based on, and you can see that if you Google search Quant QNT utility token, you'll find a picture. Your viewers will find a picture, and it talks about all the 7 utility, like if everything that demands the QNT token to be used within Quant Overledger. And one of them is they have to buy licenses. So when they buy the license, they can pay in fiat, and you know this, but they pay with euro or Canadian dollars, whatever. They pay with whatever dollar they want, and Quant automatically converts this into QNT and locks up the QNT in Treasury for the duration of the license, which is 1 year. After a year, if they renew, which they'll have to renew, I mean, everybody's going to renew. This is what people have to understand too. Like, if Quant is successful and it is what we think it is, okay, everybody has to renew their license. Like, do you know anybody today that says I don't need my computer anymore?
Yeah,
I don't
want the Microsoft.
anymore.
I'm running a corporation with 100 employees. I don't want the Microsoft anymore.
I don't need internet anymore. I don't
Yeah.
need a computer, right? Like, everybody's going to need to renew their licenses. Now, how much QNT that's going to demand is going to depend again on the deal that Quant does with them, how many users, the volume, the use cases, how many employees they have, and so on, and how many developers that they're using to develop different apps, blah blah blah, and the price of the token.
Sure.
If the price of the token is $2,000 instead of 100, well, that means there's less token being locked up. So the token gets released out of the treasury. The license is renewed, and then whatever it costs goes back in. Because again, it's, how much is locked up is going to depend on what.
Yeah.
So if the license is, let's say, $1 million, and the QNT token is $2,000 now, well, it only takes 5,000 tokens to be locked up. Rather than if the license was 1 million and token was only $100, then you needed 10,000 tokens to be locked up rather than 2,000 or whatever. So it's how many locked up at renewal just depends on what the price of the token is at the time. But my point is, when they're buying these licenses, it has to lock up the token. And they wanted to make it seamless for these corporations, so they can just pay in fiat. Because like, corporations don't want to have to buy QNT and hold that on their books. And no, it made the system so that obviously the world can adopt it. He knew what corporations needed, so you just pay your license, and we'll deal with the utility in the back end. Pay us with your fiat, pay us with whatever you want, euro, Canadian, US dollar, whatever, and automatically our treasury will lock up, convert it, we'll use, and they'll go buy it off the exchanges. They have partnerships with Coinbase and other exchanges to go get that utility, to go get the QNT token.
Wow.
So they're either going to take it from their treasury, or technically with the exchanges, likely it's with the exchanges, they have to go buy the tokens and lock it up in their treasury for the duration of the license. They're not forcing corporations to pay with QNT because it's too convoluted, it's a big
Right.
mess. Corporations don't want to have to deal with, okay, I got to get this many tokens, I have to swamp it for this, and then my accountant's going to have to, no, it doesn't work. They just
Right.
pay your $2 million fee. Like I said, pay it to Quant. Quant's going to automatically convert it to QNT and lock up the QNT.
Which makes so much
It's
sense
simple.
with ScriptPay, right? Annual licensing subscriptions.
Yeah.
And I'm
The only way you
sensing,
get real
I'm very much sensing this this common strategy of eating up massive amounts of the supply and injecting trillions and trillions of dollars into the ecosystems, whether it's QNT, HBAR, Link. I think that they've all kind of figured out their own equation. So we talked a little bit about Quant with the BIS. I want to ask you a little bit about Quant and the IMF. Could Quant's
The only
could Quant's overledger eventually connect to not just banks but IMF level systems?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In any system, any bank, it's all the same. Any to any system, any software, any database, it doesn't matter what kind of software, database, any RTGS system, payment system, any to any. And on their website years ago, it said that they had created I think it was called the multi-token lockup or something for the IMF.
Yeah.
I think it's multi-token lockup or whatever. So yeah, they're already connected to the IMF because they created a certain structure for the IMF. I think it's called the multi-token lockup or something. But indirectly, like, if my thesis is correct, where the XRP ledger or RippleNet gets passed on to the IMF, or I don't know, like IMF ends up managing the escrow or the XRP ledger or whatever. I'm not sure how that's really going to look exactly. But technically, because Quant is providing the interoperability and programmability and everything for the money and for the unified ledger, which is the unified ledger, people have to understand, the unified ledger being the XRP ledger is one of the blockchains. It just so happens to be an internet at the same time. It's the internet of value. The use case is so big that it happens to be an internet at the same time. It's called the internet of value. But it's just one of the blockchain that Quant allows the whole world to connect to. So technically, if we say, well, the XRP ledger, the main people behind the XRP ledger is the IMF, but I'm not sure, right? Because the IMF has talked about how they need to have some reform and their SDR could be looking different or whatever. They talked about reform, so I don't know, like, is it the IMF gets a portion and then all the others, like the 20 G20 central banks or G10 or whatever, G7 get the majority of the rest? I don't know how it's structured, obviously, but I just know Ripple's not your normal company, right? And they're doing exactly what the IMF tried to do. So I guess to answer, I'm answering questions saying, like,
Yeah.
indirectly, one is providing the interoperability for the unified ledger so the world can tap into it. And if, since the XRP ledger was technically built for the central banks and the IMF, then technically Quant is providing that. Technically the answer is yes, if that makes sense.
It's a lot. I'm going to end up watching this over another 3 or 4 times. I'd like to jump a little bit into your faith. You're open about your faith.
Praise the Lord.
You praise the Lord. You're open about your faith as a Christian. So in a money-driven world or space, how does faith guide your perspective?
Yeah. I want to be clear that I'm not happy I'm not happy about where I think CBDCs are going.
Right, me neither.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean it's in the Bible. It's saying that we're gonna have one day. Jesus said you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade without this mark on your hand or on your forehead. So I think for me, mark meant like a chip. And if you Google search IBM chip, IBM Verichip, technically I think that's technically the device. It looks like a grain of rice. And technically already people putting it in their hands. It's not the same, like, because they're just putting it for like accessing buildings or whatever. The system that's depicted in the Bible where it says you won't be able to buy, sell, or trade
Yes.
without this mark, to me it has to be, I think, that chip. A mark, I think, is a digital mark. It's like, instead of having a credit card or debit card, it's technically that little chip there that allows us to swipe. It's the same technology, but maybe in like something that looks like a grain of rice, you put it under the skin, called the Verichip. I think that's pretty much technology there. Could be 100 years, could be 50, could be 500 years, God knows. But to me, that means a cashless society. If you can't buy, sell, or trade without a mark, it means I think there's no more cash. Because
Yeah.
I can, yeah, because if it was just a mark or a tattoo or something you had, like a really mark, like not a chip or whatever, you had it on your hand, like somebody can still choose to sell to you if they want. They don't have to follow what the Antichrist or the beast said, right? They can sell it to you. But to me, the only way you can't buy or sell or trade without this means that we're in a cashless society.
Yes, and I think that the description of a mark may not resemble something similar to a tattoo, but you got to understand that chip or whatever it may be probably is also linked to your digital identity. We're looking at a world in the future where it's like you may have to hit that in order for you to enter a grocery store. In the same way, like you kind of had to show papers during CV-19. Like I know in New York City was really locked down. You couldn't even get a cheeseburger without showing papers. Kind of crazy, but I think it's.
Yeah, pandemic.
But yeah, absolutely. I think CBDCs by no means is not bringing you closer to freedom, and I think that it's programmable money is exactly what it is, and if they wanted to, they could phase you out of it if you don't want it to become obedient. I think that it's interesting to see the development of it, and we can predict it, and we see what's coming, and we're going to benefit from it in one way. But by no means, in a humanitarian perspective or a freedom perspective, do I think that it's good. And I do agree with you. I think that I wonder if sometimes this technology does resemble the mark.
Well, it's what's eventually going to bring us there. So I guess what I want to say to answer your question is I'm not for CBDCs. Obviously, this is where this is going. And I think the powers behind this technology obviously don't have Christ in their heart. Okay, I mean this is good versus evil. Yeah, this is not good long term. This is moving us into a cashless society where governments are going to be able to program money and say, okay, if you don't obey us, we shut off your wallet, or oh, you didn't get your 100 health protocols that we gave you, and you didn't put all these things in your arm that we tried to force you to do, and so you're not going to get your social security check.
Yeah.
And oh, you traveled a bit too much there, your footprint was, so on and on, right? They really control, like they have way too much control.
Yep.
Especially in countries where like, yeah. Anyway, so going back a bit, but for me, the reason I'm really into it, researching it, and wanting to invest in it is because this is more future. I mean, this could be 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. If I don't invest in it, see myself, unless I have a really big company or other ways of making really big money, like if I don't seize this opportunity, how the heck am I going to help my brothers and my sisters and the
Yeah.
people I want to help and my family? How am I going to be able to finance ministry and finance the gospel and help people that are in need?
Right.
Like it's not going to be it's not going to be these evil corporations. I'm not saying all corporations are evil. It's not what I'm saying. But it's not these people that have like a very bad agenda that are going to help the poor. Like there's no reason for them to be poor in the first place. There's so much money. But my point is I'm investing in it because I want to be able to help
Yeah,
people.
to do good with it, you
right?
can see what's
Like,
coming. And I think
yeah,
that you
like,
and me, someone brought up a good point. I think that you and me both know the distinction between a wholesale CBDC and a retail CBDC. I honestly think that it's the retail CBDC that is what we're talking about. The wholesale, the transferring between central bank to central banks doesn't necessarily affect guys like you and me in our lives, but it's the retail CBDCs. That's the programmable, traceable money. That's kind of what
yeah,
we're talking
correct.
about.
Right, and I think when I've had a few comments on my YouTube channel that they said like, oh, you're participating in Market of the Beast. They're Christians and they kind of see it a different way. But for me, is like, first of all, it's not the Market of the Beast. It's the technology that's going to bring us into a cashless society that will eventually bring out the mark of the beast,
Sure.
probably because you have to have a cashless society and so on and so forth. So like this is not Market of the Beast. Like XRP is not the mark. Okay. Like you're not putting your XRP injecting in your hand or your forehead. Like it's not the mark, right? Or we're not there yet. So to me is, you're not participating in the Market of the Beast by investing. I don't agree with that at all. And the other thing too is like I got a few comments kind of implying like we're helping them. Like listen, whether invest or not, it's not going to stop them from being successful.
It's
okay?
not the retail
Like,
money that they're looking after. They
oh
don't really.
my goodness.
It's not the retail money they're looking after. Your $10,000
No, but
investment is gonna change. They're targeting
yeah, like
the world
well,
here.
do you really think that Christians literally buying XRP is gonna, or not buying XRP is gonna change the chances of the central bankers being successful down the road? I mean, come on,
Right?
like
Yeah.
investing in tokens that might do 1,000x or 2,000 or 5,000x, or it's gonna determine if you're gonna be able to help brothers and your sisters and finance the missionaries and the churches and I mean, or the people in need. Like, give me $50 trillion, like give me $50 billion tomorrow. I still probably can't even solve half of the financial problems of one continent or three countries.
Right.
Like the idea that you can help people while you're poor. Like, yeah, you can still do good, but like the idea that Christians shouldn't be rich it's absolutely ridiculous. If
Yeah.
a Christian wants to do good with money, he's the first person that should be rich.
Well, that's the
I mean,
thing is a lot of people misquote it. They say that money's the root of all evil, but that's not actually what it says. It says the pursuit of
nope.
money. It's everybody has a God. Everyone has number one priority in their entire life. And for some people, their number one priority in life is the pursuit of money. For some people, their God or their priority in their life would be their career or their wife. For some people, everyone has a God. You got to decide if it's going to be the divine, or you got to decide if it's going to be money. You got to decide if it's going to be the car sitting in your driveway. Everyone has a number one priority in their life.
And well, I want to share two scriptures. Actually, that verse goes a bit further. The verse actually says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Now we always quote it as saying it's the root of all evil, but that's not really what the verse says. It's the root of all kinds of evil. Because if you think about it, it doesn't make sense that money would be the root of all evil, let alone if that's not what the scripture said. It wouldn't make sense because if you look at all of the evil stuff happening, if you see like an adult torturing an elderly or torturing a child or raping a child or molesting, like there's plenty of evil in the world that doesn't involve money. But the idea that doesn't have anything to do with money at all. Like somebody torturing somebody for no reason at all has nothing to do with money, and that's evil. If somebody
Right.
think that's not evil, I can't help you. Like right now, there's such a unreal like it's almost people can't distinct evil between good and evil right now. It's almost like it's all the same. Like good is evil and evil is good. Like it's just ridiculous. It's insane. So, but the scripture, my understanding, is actually says it's the root of all kinds of evil. Love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, not all evil. And the other thing too is in Proverbs it says the blessings of the Lord make a man rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. And then Jesus said, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. So he's saying that the enemy roams around for only one reason. The only reason the devil roams around earth is to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And again, he says the blessings of the Lord make a man rich, and he has no sorrow to it. So like you said, and then the other thing too is the Bible says that the destruction of the poor is their poverty. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. It clearly says that poverty destroys. Right? And if people don't believe that, I mean, go to certain places in India, go to certain places in the Philippines, certain places in Africa, and see if poverty doesn't destroy. Right? So the destruction of the poor is their poverty. And then Jesus said that the enemy comes only to destroy, to steal, kill, and destroy. And the Bible says that poverty destroys. So poverty comes from the devil, biblically. And Jesus said, I came though, but I came that you may have life and have it more abundantly. Jesus wants people to prosper. If you look at the Garden of Eden before man sinned, there was no lack. They had everything. God just said, don't touch that tree. You have everything. Because if you touch that tree, it's going to separate you from me. You're going to know good and evil. Just don't touch that tree. But he gave them everything. They had everything. But they were focused on the only thing God told them they couldn't touch.
It's so interesting.
Instead of looking at everything they had. Instead of looking at everything else they had, right?
It's so, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, you look at endless stories in the Bible. If you pray for a crown, he don't just give you a crown, he gives you a giant to run through, right? You pray for strength, he's not just going to wake up and give you strength, he's going to put you in positions where you have to learn how to be strong. You want to be patient, you're not going to wake up and have patience, he's going to put you in positions where you have to be patient. I think that it's ultimately the drive to which you end up being the man of God or the woman of God that you were called to be. And all of these sufferings in your life, or all of these potholes and what be it, is going to be the type of person that you need to be when God's timing is right and God's plan is right. But I also do believe that it's the reward is not on earth, and not to say that, you know, every rich person is not, you know, a God person of God, but I think it is very clear that our reward is not here. But by no means is it, you know, it's almost like you're praying as if it's up to God, but you're working as if it's up to you, right? The sloth is a deadly sin, right? To sit there and be lazy, no. You need to get up, you need to work, you need to focus on yourself, you got to focus on your family, learn how to provide. You should be continuing your education, not as soon as you finish high school, that's it, I'm done learning anymore, and I'm going to go home from work and I'm going to sit there and watch Netflix and eat Doritos all day. No, you need to get up, you need to work, you need to provide for your family, you need to learn on your fitness, you need to read the Bible. There are multiple aspects in your life that you need to continue to grow in, and you got to pray as if it's up to him, but work as if it's up to you. And if God so desires that you deserve the reward, to have an abundance in wealth or in health, what you decide to do with that, ultimately, it really is up to you. But he does not give rewards that maybe some people will ruin, you know, too early. You get it when you deserve it, and it's all God's timing, it's all God's plan. If you're sitting there wondering why hasn't this happened to me yet, maybe the reason that it hasn't happened to you yet because you might just be you just might not be ready. You might ruin the blessing if it comes to you and you're not prepared for it mentally.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. I think sometimes one of the reasons is we don't walk in his grace either. Like he just said, believe. You have faith, believe. I think 99% of us Christians are not walking in the full blessings that he has for us because, like, I was reading a book. I started reading books from Joseph Prince. Unmerited favor. Oh my goodness, he just brings a whole other perspective when he starts lining up the scriptures, like really opening the scriptures. Unmerited favor, Joseph Prince, and you can listen to what's the other. Anyways, Joseph Prince. Most of the time we're not walking in his. I think he has more for us than what we're believing him for. Mm-hmm. I really do, and you're right. Sometimes it's not the right timing. He's not going to give us at a time that it's going to destroy us, right? Like, look at Joseph. He spent time in the prison, went from the prison to the palace overnight, right? But he went through crazy stuff before, but he got him ready when he was promoted. So, yeah, no, I agree 100%. And money at the end of the day, it's like you can have somebody that has a lot of money and it's a blessing for everybody. And you have somebody that has a lot of money, it's not a blessing for nobody because just keeps it all for himself. And if you look at the Abrahamic covenant, when God made the covenant with Abraham, it was a twofold covenant. He said, I will bless you so that you will be a blessing if dispensing good to others. He blessed Abraham so that Abraham could bless others. That was a twofold covenant. And we see that, like, people that are givers tend to prosper.
Yep.
If you're a giver, like, you see God protecting you in different ways. He prosper you, he protects you, he makes ways when there's no way. Like, I think money's a big test. It's a big test for the Christian. And 20%, only 20% statistics are only 20% of the church gives to God. 80% don't give to God.
Do you? I feel this way, as well as many spiritual people that I have spoken to on my platform. But do you feel that you have been nudged in the right direction? That you kind of have been pushed to learn about this, to educate yourself, to be involved in this space, vision, or some sort of subconscious nudge to be involved? And is that of God's will, God's plan for you? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think so. I was really praying and fasting about it like 6-7 months ago. I had a big decision to make because I had already lost so much time. Not lost time, but I had already spent so much time researching crypto. So now to leave my business and to start building a YouTube channel. I started my YouTube channel exactly 5 months ago, to be exact. And
wow.
I was like, okay,
it feels like so much longer.
Yeah,
time
well, just did a lot of research. Yeah. Some people say, where the heck did this guy come from? Just came out of nowhere.
I feel like I've been watching you forever.
No, I know it doesn't sound very humble, sorry. But no, I just, I was very weary because I'm like, okay, it's going to take me forever to build a channel. It's going to take me like 2 years to monetize it. And I mean, like, to start doing some kind of income. And I lost already so much time and so much money because time is money. I lost so much time researching so much. But I felt God, like, really push me. Like, I was feeling him nudging, saying, do a YouTube channel. And it kind of exploded. Like, if I would have done more videos, like, I would have disciplined myself to really do more videos. Like, right now I have like 17,000 subscribers in 5 months, which is pretty good.
That's insane.
But if I was doing more videos consistently, I'd probably already have 30,000 within 5 months. So God pushed me, but I think he kind of confirmed it. He really confirmed it because he sent Maximus Crypto my way, like Sebastian in the QNT community is like, hey, get out of that Telegram group where they a few guys like hate you for just trying to explain XRP. Like, get out of that sewer. Come with us. We have a group. And then I went there. And then I met Maximus Crypto. At Maximus Crypto. Give that guy a follow, guys. He's such a nice guy. Such an amazing guy.
Yes.
Yeah, like, just God made a way, like, all sorts of miracle. Like, he's like, come, and he said, I want to, like, and every time he was doing videos about me, collaborating with me, he's editing all the videos for me, and he's telling everybody, like, if you don't follow Jesse, man, don't even bother being in crypto. Like, always, like, pushing his community, like, unbelievable, right? Like, all these different things are happening that's making it way easier for me. Like, it's crazy, but I was very hesitant, man, because I've been thinking about starting videos for like 2 years now, but I was like, man, like, the time it takes to monetize it and the money I already lost, like, not working, just always researching, and so yeah, but he really nudged me, I think, and then the response I got from the community is kind of confirmation for me. I'm still going in blindly, like, I don't know what and then I was actually, praise the Lord, I don't know if you know this, praise the Lord. I was literally the first person to ever be invited on the Paul Barron XRP podcast.
Yes.
The first podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
he was on there. It was a fantastic interview, guys. You really should check that out. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. But I felt bad after because I held back. I really held back because I didn't realize it was a podcast. I thought it was going to be his main YouTube channel. And 2 days before I was going on, he had interviewed the commissioner of the SEC.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine.
Yes.
So here I am. Yeah, so imagine. But I was not going on a main YouTube channel. I was going on his YouTube podcast channel. which has a lot less viewers, right? Because he just started it. So I mean, I was I was panicking. Like I was like, okay, like because any question he asked me, like when you ask me a question, I'll kind of answer the first thing that comes to mind. But in this platform, like he's technically number one in in the U.S. in North America, and he's one of the top three in the world, and has I think it's 1.6 million followers. But it's all like the people he interviews is all like the head of the SEC. It's all like regulators
Yes.
and like it's not a platform where I can go and say, hey, I think Ripple is this, IMF is. I can't say
Right. Yeah.
90, like I can't say this stuff because I don't want to be a burden to him either, because of the kind of viewership and the kind of authority he has, and like like the people, like what I mean, like it's a different angle. I can't go there and say I think the lawsuit is fake when he interviewed this SEC commissioner 2 days before. And I'm gonna have like 400,000 people see that on within a month. Like, so I held back. I held back a bit and I was biting my tongues, and I was like, so I didn't. Maybe I wish. Yeah.
No, you did a
Anyways,
great
but
job. But
yeah, I
that is
appreciate it.
a whole different type of pressure where it's a whole nother means of professionalism.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was like, so yeah, my channel, like, so anyway, so I feel pushed in it. I feel God has confirmed it, but all by His grace. Like, guys, listen, I know a lot of people are saying like you have so much knowledge, but it's only by His grace, man. I'm no better than anybody else. I want to make that clear. I do have a lot of knowledge, I think, in XRP and QNT and utility and stuff like that, but I'm no better than anybody else. It just so happened that by God's grace, I spent a lot of time researching it. I'm not the best at many, many things, right? So I'm just an average guy by God's grace, was able to research like crazy, and I hope God uses me. And I hope I'm not wrong about the potential. I mean, I hope because, people put some hope in what we say, even if we just say this is, it's just entertainment. It's not financial advice. People still hold on to what we say because we have very strong conviction about what we say. And so hopefully we're right. Hopefully XRP goes to 5,000, 10,000, 1,000, whatever. And yeah, so that we can help others and create security for ourselves. But ultimately, security is in Christ.
Glory be to
God is
God.
the way. If I gave my testimony about where I was before I asked God for help and where I am right now, like I shouldn't even be alive. Like I shouldn't even be alive. I suffered from a major depression when I was young. I shouldn't even be alive today. Like this is me here just talking is God's grace. So like I said, without Him, I'm nobody. I'm absolutely nobody. Yeah.
Glory be to God.
Make
Thank
that.
God. Thank God
Yeah.
you are absolutely a tool, and he will refine you. And thank the Lord that you are here to shed the knowledge that He has presented on you. I think I'm very excited to see the next 5 years for you,
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
brother.
Hopefully, I can meet you in person one day.
If I can, I'd like to just go through a very quick few rapid questions with you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we
for
can
sure,
finish this up.
absolutely. No, I got time. Let's do it. 'Cause I'm
Your
sure, like I've been ranting forever. There's probably a
your
hundred
research
questions.
style, late night deep dives or early morning focus?
All over the map. Deep,
Anytime.
not deep nighttime. I say I'm not a morning person, unfortunately, but I got to work on that. Nighttime,
Bull
daytime,
market
nighttime.
or bear market? Which one do you secretly enjoy more?
Oh, a bull market. Because I missed the last one. I was holding XRP, didn't do anything at all.
Which white paper do you think more people should actually read?
White paper.
Yes.
Well, they should look into QNT and XRP primarily, especially QNT as well, because that a lot of people know XRP, but very few people have. And just start with my playlist. You'll get a huge jump start because it's gonna take you 5,000 hours to research what you can kind of gather in just watching my 6 videos. It's only 3-4 hours.
If you could debate one famous person about crypto, who would it be?
Michael Saylor.
Michael Saylor. I thought you were going to say Gary Gensler. Michael Saylor.
Oh no,
Fantastic
there's no
one.
debate. Well,
Fantastic
either
one.
one. I
Um,
think Michael Saylor is just too bullish. He's just too bullish on Bitcoin.
what is one crypto community that you would never want to be stuck in a group chat with?
Oh my goodness, stuck in a group chat? Stuck in a group chat. I don't really have any really that I.
He loves them
not-
all. Loves them all.
Yeah, I think they all have their place. I haven't researched memes at all. I know there's communities around memes. I know a lot of people in utility tokens are not convinced on memes, and I understand. But a lot of people made money with them. 90% of people lost money, 99%. But there's still these, there's still a culture. There's still a community there. There's still some people make money with it, and yeah, like I'm not even memes. Like I mean, I don't have nothing against the whole meme movement.
Chat,
Honestly,
chat, add him into the fart coin group chat, please. Okay, how do you prefer to do your research? Is it podcasts, live streams, writing threads? How are you researching?
no, for me, it's just basically it was the advantage I had. I think is I was just watching every XRP YouTuber for over like 7 8 years, just watching all of them, and then also doing my own research too. So it's just consuming all the knowledge that all the research they had, and then also myself brainstorming and then looking up keywords on the internet, trying to find white paper, trying to find institutional papers and everything. So for me, it's just listening to a lot of YouTubers, so many of them I've listened to over the years, and then also digging on the internet myself and researching. That's all I did. And now with AI, now it's so easy. Guys, just grab a PDF, put it in there, and tell me, what does a PDF say in a nutshell? In 2 minutes, it's 20 seconds, right? So I think the advantage I had is because I was not doing YouTube videos for so long. It takes a lot of time to do YouTube videos,
It
right?
does.
Like all these amazing, yeah. So for me, the last, like over 7 8 years, every single day, almost all day sometimes, I was just consuming because I was not tied up trying to put these videos together. So I was just consuming all the content from these amazing content creators. Brad Kimes, Darren Moore, I could name all of them. There's so many of them, right? Just consuming everything they were putting out. Everything. For years and years and years and then doing. But what happened is I had spent years researching the central banking system prior to this. So it helped me to tie everything together.
What's the story with the Jesus painting behind you? Who painted that?
This is amazing.
Yes,
Is that a question from the community?
it is.
Oh yeah, nice. So this is my mom's friend. She gave that to me about 4 years ago, 3 4 years ago, and it's so amazing because she's not a Christian. She's a spiritual person, but she's not a Christian. And I think she kind of prayed, and she had it in her heart to paint Jesus with the dove, which represents the Holy Spirit. And Jesus has open arms, right? I'll pull it. Oh, I'm afraid of.
I see it. I can see it, brother.
See, so it's Jesus, with open arms, very friendly, and that's what she had on her heart to paint for me. And then when I started my YouTube channel, I was like, okay, I can't do this without Jesus. And I was thinking, okay, is that gonna offend people? And I brainstormed it, and it was good. Because I didn't want people to land a channel and think like, oh, this is gonna be like he's gonna preach to us like all the time, and this guy's not even gonna talk about crypto. But anyways, so I looked at Jesus and no, I gotta have the picture there, and so it was perfect. It's perfect because it's Jesus with open arms. It's not offending. It's very loving picture of Jesus. So yeah, got it from a friend. Never thought it was gonna be like my trademark.
I love it. I really do.
Yeah, praise the Lord. Yeah, praise the Lord.
What is your favorite non-crypto hobby that you like, that you helps you reset, or that you love the most?
I don't have many right now. I'll tell you. That's
Researching.
the problem. I gotta
You're
find hobbies.
locked in.
Yeah, I gotta find hobbies because I've been too obsessed with crypto. I mean, yeah, I gotta start playing playing sports or something. I go to the gym, but it's just to feel better and to unwind.
I'm with
I
you in this.
don't have a lot of hobbies.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I love shooting guns, poker, fishing,
Yeah, I like
softball.
poker.
And
Yeah, I like poker. I haven't played a lot. I
started to
love
fall out of
fishing.
them. This has consumed so much.
Yeah, nice.
What is
So fishing, I love fishing.
Yeah.
But I don't do it, unfortunately. Yeah.
What is one conspiracy theory in crypto that makes you laugh?
Conspiracy theory, meaning, give me an example if you don't mind. Because a lot of things people think are conspiracy is not a conspiracy.
It could be
So that-
market cap matters. It could be
Oh,
I don't. It doesn't have to be conspiracy theory, but what is, I guess, one theory in crypto that makes you laugh, or one conviction or perspective that most people have, the narrative for something?
well, I guess it's. not
10,
a laughable matter.
XRP can't go to 10K?
That's one of them. But no, I think like when again, this is not against the Bitcoin community, okay? This is not against the Bitcoin community, but it's like it surprises me that 95% or 98% of people in Bitcoin, like the whole idea of Bitcoin's the only one and screw XRP. Never mind XRP and never mind these shit bankers coin, right? These crap bankers coin. Like, you know, XRP's crap, they're working with the banks, and Bitcoin's the only one. They're not even realizing that the people behind XRP are the same people behind Bitcoin. Like the Bitcoin story that they're all holding on to and hating the XRP community because they are holding on to this Bitcoin vision is not even true. The Bitcoin Nakamoto story is not even true. The same entities that they want to get away from are the entities that created Bitcoin.
Right.
And the Nakamoto story, that's proven. So that's what I think makes me laugh or makes me shake my head more. But it's more disappointing, I think, because, yeah, I think it's a major deception.
If the XRP lawsuit never happened, where would the price be today?
I'm not sure because I think they probably still have a way of suppressing the price for a while. There's something's fishy about the price not going up higher than $3 right now because it went up to over $3 or $2.80 USD or $3 or something. It went around that price in 2000 at the end of 2017 when RippleNet was just started. They had like 0 banks connected and it went to $3. So how the heck can it not move in 7 years? Because I'm pretty sure, I can't find a clip, but I'm pretty sure Brad Garlinghouse admitted 7 years ago that they were connecting 5 banks per week. They had 200 and they were connecting 5 banks per week. Now, a lot of people told me that it was just 2. One person said he was just connecting 2, but for me, I'm not sure if I'm mistaken, but I really remember him saying we're connecting 5 banks per week. This was in 2018. So they had 200 banks already at the time. They were connecting 5 banks per week. Then they said we're connecting 6 banks per week. But let's just say 5 banks per week. 5 banks per week, it's 250 banks per year, times 7 years. Okay, that's 1,750 banks.
Yeah.
Plus the 200 banks they already had. So that's 1,900 banks, 1,950 banks at the rate that they were connecting them independently, one by one. That doesn't count, like we talked about R3 Corridor or Swift or CLS, or you name all of these different payment companies and integration company, like all of them. Because you connect Swift, you connect 10,000 banks right there. So how the heck can the price still be $3? That's impossible to me. That does not make sense. I think the price is being suppressed for now. But I may be wrong. But it just doesn't make sense that the retailers can push the price to $3, but I think it's because the volume's on private networks for now. For now, guys. But once it starts going, switch being flipped, ISO and everything, I think it's going to have to hit the public ledger. But I think something's funny. But keep in mind, the CBDCs are being built on private ledgers, but when they want to settle cross-border, they're going to have to use the public ledger. People are panicking about the private ledgers, but they're going to have to touch the public ledger eventually, right? So I think that's what's happening. The utility is built in these private ledgers for now, and it's being suppressed for now, guys. For now. For now. Can I say it again? For now.
For now. For now.
Don't sell XRP because you heard me saying, it's all in private ledgers.
Brother, if you had to choose one, is it XRP or QNT?
Oh my goodness. That is the $1 billion question. If I had to choose one, I think, okay, this is my debate here. Is it okay if I give a long answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so XRP, I think, can just maybe go like really high really quick because we see the IMF talking about Bretton Woods 2.0. And Bretton Woods 2.0 was where Bretton Woods 1.0 was literally a global reserve currency being backed by gold, right? So Bretton Woods 2.0, like if they overnight decide that they're going to peg it to gold or peg it to a bunch of commodities or whatever, and they're going to put the price 5,000, 10,000 or whatever to stabilize the price, that's crazy potential if that was to happen. So that's why it's hard for me to choose QNT over XRP. But then at the same time, I look at QNT, and QNT is like 175 times cheaper than XRP with a ridiculous amount. Like, honestly, I don't know if I could ever make that decision. I would not want to have a gun in my head having made that decision. I don't, like, you're going to end up shooting me, I think. They're gonna end up shooting me because I don't know. I don't think I can decide.
That's okay. It's it probably would be one of the biggest questions you could ask me as well. I have them tied for number one as well.
What do you think? How about you? Yeah.
I don't know. I have them. I have them both tied for number one. I see value in both of them. I'm really excited for both of them. I'm probably as invested into both of them, probably somewhat equally. Um, I
When
don't know.
push comes to shove, I think it would be maybe 51%, 50 to 55% QNT, meaning I would lean 55% of my decision on QNT and 45% XRP. I think I'm maybe 1 or 2% more in QNT,
I
just
think
because of the market cap and because
sure.
they can't manipulate the price.
Yeah, it's like it'd be one thing if you were buying XRP at fractions of a penny, and then yeah, you're talking about an insanely high price. To buy QNT at the price it is now, to kind of mock Bitcoin's prices or even go well above that, I think that's how early you would be in terms of getting into XRP. It'd be like fractions of a penny, you know. I don't know. I got one final
But
question.
XRP,
Oh,
sorry, one more
go
thing,
ahead,
if you don't
please.
but XRP actually being a bridge currency, that's insane because you're not just buying a license or
Right.
you're actually the bridge so that the volume, the value has to convert into your currency, into the token to come back out as another token, right? So it's a different form of demand. It's not like just, staking or buying a license that puts demand on a token or whatever. Like you're bridging the value of all the value in the world. So I think the utility there is possibly even more. It's just I see the switch on XRP potentially being able to flip quicker than QNT. That's why I would never be able to make a choice.
Yeah, it's almost like it's two sides of the same sword. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
I got one final question for you, brother. If you
No
could
worries. I got time.
if you could leave me and your listeners with one Bible verse, throw it at me. Doesn't have to
Can I
be.
leave you two?
Does huh?
Can I leave you two?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I could leave you 2 or 4. But anyways, plain, for God so loved the world. He so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, not to condemn the world, not to condemn, but that the world through him might be saved. And you're saved by grace alone. God chose you. And sorry, I'm going to give you a few. God's will is that all repent and come to him. That's his heart, for everyone to repent. And repent doesn't mean you become perfect. Repent just means that you look to God and say, you know what, God, I believe that you died for my sins. And I'm sorry for my sins, and I want you to save me. And I want you to guide my life, and that's it. It's not about being perfect. The Bible says that we're going to confess our sins daily. So if we're confessing our sins daily, it means we're sinners. We're going to keep sinning. I think there's a misconception about repentance is where, like, if you repent, you're not gonna sin after, and if you keep doing the same sin, it means you haven't repented. I don't believe that. My personal understanding is that repenting means it's a change of heart, because even Paul, which was the most religious, he had the law, he could follow it like he was crazy. He followed the Jewish law by heart. Even he said in Romans, I find this law at work. The good that I want to do, I do not do, and the evil that I do not want to do, that I do. And then the conclusion says, therefore, it is no longer me who sins, but it's sin that lives within me. So even Paul was sinning and doing things he did not want to do. So that's for me why I don't believe, like, repentance doesn't mean you're not going to sin again. So you don't have to worry like, oh, if I become a Christian, I have to be perfect. No. If you become a Christian, you don't have to worry about being perfect, because you're no longer under the law. Now you're under grace. And there's nothing that you can do that will cause you to be separated from God or go to hell, because you're under grace now. You're no longer under law. And when there is no law, there is no sin. When there is no law, there's no condemnation. So for example, if I'm driving on the highway and there's no speed limit, I can drive 200 kilometers an hour. I didn't break any laws. But if somebody puts a speed sign there, a police puts a speed sign of maximum 100 kilometers an hour, automatically I broke a law. Well, with Jesus, when you washed by his blood, you come under his grace because you accept him as your personal Lord and Savior. You're under grace now. You're not under law. He paid the price. He fulfilled the law. He fulfilled it, so that me and you can be free. And the Bible says that he who is free indeed. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the truth is that he paid the price for us, because he has to judge the world, but he doesn't want us to be separated from him forever, because he loves us. But he has to judge. And I'm sorry, I'm going a little rant here. But,
No, don't apologize.
I know some people say, well, like, if God is good, why does hell exist? Or why wouldn't everybody go to heaven? Right? Which kind of makes sense. But when you think about it, if as human beings in general, we don't want a relationship with God, why would an all-loving God that has to give us free will out of love, why would he force you and me, why would he force us to go to heaven with him?
Yeah, if you chose to live your life separate from him, then he's going to give you exactly what you wanted. When you die, he's going to say, you chose to live your life separate from me, so I'll give you I'm so just, and I'm so loving that I'll give you exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, but sometimes you hear the argument saying, if God is so good, why is there a hell, and why doesn't everybody go to heaven? Why do we need to accept Jesus, and why do we have to, do this and that and whatever? But think about it, like most people in general, I didn't want to live for God until I knew his grace for me and his love and his character. I was just doing my own thing, right? But he saved me from a million things, and I had no choice to acknowledge how good he really was and how much he really loves me for no reason at all, the same way he loves everybody listening right now. But if we don't want to live for God here, if we don't want to talk to him right now, God's not going to force us to go to heaven with him and be in his presence constantly for eternity.
Right.
He can't do that, because now he's forcing a relationship with you, and he's forcing us to be in a relationship with him forever in heaven. He can't do that. You can't say, if a man loves a woman, you can't say, oh, I love you, therefore I'm going to force you to be with me, and I'm going to force you to be in my presence all the time. He can't do that. As a loving God, he has to give us free will. But he demonstrates his love for us on the cross to show us how much he loves us and to save us.
Yep.
And it's just grace.
And I think that a lot of people, they tend to think that the Bible is a long book full of very boring and restrictive rules. It's a big rule book that you have to follow, and if you do this right, then you're going to get into heaven. And I don't think that that's all what it is. I think that that list of how you're called to live and doing what's right and doing what's wrong, I think is almost meant to show you how imperfect you are and how broken you are, and to realize that I can't do this alone. No, like you said, the good that I want to do, I don't end up doing, and the bad that I don't want to do, I end up doing. It is almost human nature, and it's okay that you have these natural instincts, but it's that realization of I can't do it alone, so I give it up to you. Please help me. And I think that that's ultimately the entire goal of that boring book. I think it's to truly take off the mask, look into yourself, and to look at yourself honestly, your flaws and the things that you're good at, and to realize that I did not design myself. There is something in there that's just there.
Yeah, the general nature of man is that we just want to do our own thing. We don't want, for some reason, I don't know why, I think for most of us, we don't want a relationship with God. I don't know, we just kind of,
It's the desire of the flesh. I think that's what it is. It's the desire of the flesh. And in order for you to nurture the spirit, you have to deprive the flesh. And I think that's why fasting and prayer is so important. But I think it's the consistent battle between flesh and spirit.
Yeah, and the Bible says, God says, his love is above the heavens and deeper than you. It's unreal. His love cannot be measured. And his grace cannot be measured either. It says his mercies are above the heavens, right? And there's more than the sand in the sea, and so on and so forth. It's just we don't understand his love, and we don't understand his character, because it was diluted or misrepresented with religion.
Yeah.
Religion made it so to get God's love or acceptance, you got to do this and this and this and this. But you look at Jesus' life, he spent most of his ministry correcting the religious leaders.
Right.
That's what he did. He was it's people think it's about religion, and it's not about relationship. It's not about religion. It's about a relationship with Christ.
Yeah, you can find God anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the church. Jesse, do you have a final closing statement that you would like to give to people? Just a final message.
Yeah. So understand that this technology is being adopted globally by all of the major players: commercial banks, central banks, biggest corporations in the world, fintechs, technology companies. This is the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, we're going from the internet age to the fourth industrial age. Some tokens are positioned to capture this huge amount of utility, these use cases, and everything that's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years. It's not financial advice. Like I said, not a financial advisor. They have to do your own research, only for entertainment purpose only. But this is the real deal. And the only reason we know about it is because we have the internet and we can do research. Otherwise, we would never know about it. And so that's one thing. Second thing, I guess, thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. I really appreciate it. If people have listened that long, like, my goodness, thank you so much for listening to my rambling this long. And final message, honestly, Jesus loves you since you're talking about it, and God loves you just the way you are. There is nothing that you can do, that you've done and will do in the future, that can separate you from God's love. And Jesus is Lord. Jesus is the King of Kings. He fulfilled hundreds and hundreds of prophecies that were written in the Old Testament years before he came. And and these were prophecies from different prophets that came during different kingdoms. Like, these prophets never spoke to each other. Some prophets said he was going to be born a virgin. The other one said he was going to pierce. Some said he was going to crucify. He was going to be raised on the third day. He was going to be betrayed for 30 shekels of silver. He fulfilled over hundreds of prophecies. And that's impossible.
Statistically almost impossible. Yep.
No, it is. It is. The mathematicians have calculated that someone fulfilling the prophecies he fulfilled, the chances of that are equal to taking the whole universe, filling it up with black pennies, filling up the whole universe with pennies, and taking one of those brown pennies, okay, taking one penny and painting it red. Okay, you paint it red, so you've got one of the pennies that is painted red. Every other penny is the same, and a blind man roaming the universe picks that one that was painted. That's the mathematical chances. It is 1 out of 10 exposant to 189 zeros. Let me repeat that again. The chances of a man fulfilling the prophecies that Jesus fulfilled, supposedly the math is, it is 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10 exposant. Is it exposant? You say, I'm a Frenchie. Is it exposant? Like, you have the exposant, like the little number next to it. So it's 1 out of 10. Yeah. So it's 1 out of 10 with 189 zeros.
To the 189th power, I guess they would. I don't know how
power,
exactly they would say it.
So it's 1 out of 1 trillion, like 189 zeros is the chances. Okay, and then the other thing too is Jesus said there's only 3 options for Jesus, okay? So think about the chances of him fulfilling these prophecies, what I just told you. Now think about the fact that he said, if you see me, you see the Father. Me and my Father are one. Jesus claimed to be God in the flesh.
Yeah.
There's only 3 options here. Either he was a complete lunatic, he taught he was God and he was not. Or number 2, he was a liar. He knew he was not God and he claimed to be God in the flesh. Or number 3, he was really the Son of God. Okay, there's only 3 options. And now when we look at his life and all when we look at all the prophecies he fulfilled, and we look at his life, like, it's history. There's more proof for Jesus walking the earth than there is for the pyramids.
The Bible is a historically accurate book. It's actually, Jesus is actually the most documented human in terms of cross references in the history of the world. Not Aristotle, not Julius Caesar.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ is the most historically documented human being in the entire world in terms of cross references.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a perfect explanation. So when we know about that and he claimed to be God, and there's only 3 options, like I said, either he's a lunatic or he's a liar or he's actually the Son of God. When we look at his life, he fulfilled all the prophecies, and we look at his life, healing the sick, healing the blind, raising the dead, healing, all walking on the water, all these different things, feeding millions, all these things, you have to come to there's only one conclusion. He was really the Son of God. He could heal the eyeball because he created the eyeball. and he could calm the seas because he created the seas. So I'll stop the sermon for now because I know it's not, but yeah, I'll leave it with that.
It's
God
one
loves you
thing to
just the way you
believe.
are, and thank you so much.
It's one thing to believe, even the devil believes in God. It's another thing to try to live in the way. But Jesse, thank you so much for all of the education that you presented to me. I definitely learned something, so I want to thank you and to everyone that was viewing. This was absolutely amazing. I'm probably going to be. I know that we almost went for 4 hours. You know.
Yeah, 3 hours 40 minutes.
And
I
this
knew it
was
was gonna be long.
And this was great. I'm probably going to end up watching this many times. But Jesse, I want to thank you so much for giving me the time and giving my viewers the education, articulating about projects that I tried to educate them in ways that maybe I wasn't able to speak about. And hopefully, you guys learned at least one thing from this live. That's always our goal.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's like I said, it's really an honor. I've watched on your channel. I see that you know what the heck you're talking about. You do explain it very well as well. Honestly, you explain it very well. Everything that you say makes sense, and you're really, you're a real treasure for this community as well. And so it's an honor to be here, man. You're my brother. I really appreciate you having me. I'm humbled that you would have me. And thank you so much for everybody that listened to us. And say hi to your father because he was watching me, I guess, and he said he had to interview me. So tell him I said hi.
He's going to be absolutely excited to hear about how it went.
Tell him I said God bless.
God bless, Jesse. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
But it is the
Commercial banks, and you're going to be able to program money